going nuts, yelling and screaming nonstop for 10 or 15 minutes at his wife with expletives deleted, threatening to beat her, punch her with his bare hands, and a lot of it was indecipherable. I'm sure soon we'll have a transcript of the whole thing with enhanced so that you can hear what O.J. Simpson said. But the message that I got from this was, O.J. Simpson, it becomes easier by the moment, by the day, to understand how O.J. Simpson might have committed such a savage act. This was a man, this tirade, captured on 911, is a tirade that is scary to a monumentally huge degree. Threatening. The thing that struck me about it was he didn't stop once for a deep breath. He just went on and on and on and on about it. Busted down the back door. You know, you wonder how in the world... here's another unanswered question so far. The kids. Are we going to find out later that the kids cowered through all of this stuff? How did the kids not hear O.J. Simpson yelling at the top of his lungs for 12 minutes? Or 15 minutes on Nicole Simpson's 911 call. How did they were upstairs sleeping, and in fact, part of the time, apparently, he was upstairs. Or, no, she was upstairs. How did the kids not hear that? I mean, I know it's a mansion, but good Lord. And are we also going to find out someday more information on the night of the killings, at the killings? You know, the kids supposedly have slept through this at Nicole Simpson's condominium. Wait a minute. Sure, it wasn't a mansion. It's not a mansion. What are you saying? Rick Goj's got the mansion. She's got the condominium. So how could the kids not hear all this? I mean, that kind of stuff also just I wonder about. Couple of excerpts on that. What, people want to talk about this already? Oh, okay. Well, that's good. We'll do it. I'll give the phone number, 441-5464 in Seattle, and just head it this way. Latest developments in the O.J. Simpson case. Anything you want to say or observe is welcome. In Seattle at 441-5464 and statewide and toll-free at 1-800-833-5464. Of course, if you have a cell one phone, star 1090 does the trick for you absolutely free. Couple of things real quick that have captured my attention. The dramatic tapes of two phone calls that Mrs. Simpson made were released. The cops say they released them because of repeated requests from news organizations, and I'll buy that. I don't think that there was any artifice in that. I think that the police were deluged with requests and responded to them. The tapes, quoting from the New York Times, the tapes seem to confirm at least one episode of Mr. Simpson's abusive behavior towards his wife long after 1989 when he pleaded no contest, blah, blah, blah. Accompanying police documents were released along with the tapes to show that in the aftermath of last October's incident, she did not want to press charges and that a report was filed only at the insistence of the police. See? There's the other problem. Even in a situation like this, Nicole Simpson did not want to press charges. She didn't want to file. And so, as one cop said very colorfully in a USA article, or some article I read today, well, we can't arrest him for beating a door. We've got to arrest him for, we're going to charge, you got to charge him with something else. And we need the cooperation of the other people. These tapes are amazing to me. Now, two sidebars, quickly. I see in a USA Today poll that 66% of the population, 2/3, believe that the charges against O.J. Simpson are either true or probably true. 2/3. But you know what? 16% of the population believes that the charges are untrue or probably untrue. And I find that phenomenal. I find it phenomenal that 16% of the population could believe these charges are untrue. And anyone in the audience that believes these charges are untrue, I would love to hear your theory about that. Frankly, I think that the kind of person who would say the charges against O.J. Simpson are untrue based on what's come out so far, I think that you're looking at a classic person who is either a data egghead who will never make a decision on anything because we have to have more data, either that, which is a debilitating illness all by itself, or it's people simply who have no interest in the truth. They have no interest in knowing the truth of any subject. I happen to believe that that's the truth, that's the way they are. Also, we have this. Where is it, Rick? We have this. This is in USA Today. It would take too long to recreate it, but the point is this. It's along the same lines that I just said. We have a 23-year-old receptionist, a female who's jubilant. She says, "I knew it." She's dancing around. There's no ski mask. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, the fact that it's now come out there, the bloody ski mask, the fabled bloody ski mask. There is no ski mask. Well, this woman, 23 years old in Los Angeles, hears there's no ski mask. She's dancing. She's jubilant. I told you a lot of this evidence would be phony, didn't I? She dances around the office, the television where she watched O.J. Simpson's lawyer, blah, 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 extract this admission from the prosecution that no such mask exists. The article goes on to say, score one for the defense, a courtroom exchange designed specifically to shape public opinion is what Shapiro was involved in forcing the prosecution to admit that no ski mask exists. And listen to this. The most amazing public spectacle since Jesus Christ stood before Pontius Pilate, marvels Stephen Salsky, who is a Washington lawyer. The whole country is in on it, and we are all involved in a Get Out the Vote campaign right now. One other quick thing before going to the calls. This I can do in 1 minute. I have listened ever since day one about the domestic abuse angle here, and of course there is one, which I haven't talked about yet. But I have had it up to I have had it totally, this nonsense about women beating men. We have a problem here. Men beat up women. O.J. Simpson beat up Nicole Simpson. Men beat up women all the time, and that is a huge problem. To have whole shows devoted, whole articles devoted to the idea that there's parity here. Oh yeah, men beat up women, but women beat up men too, as if that there's necessary in this land of parity that we all have to have equal. Everybody has to be equal on everything is ludicrous. And anyone that wants to talk, in my view, about women beating up men is another one of those people that has no interest whatever in understanding anything, in knowing anything, in solving any problems, in describing things accurately. You are brain challenged and reason challenged if you try and bury this very deep problem of spousal abuse, man on woman, and try and turn the tables and say, oh yeah, but wait a minute, there's women that are beating up men too. What a bunch of BS. You want to challenge it? You know where I am. 1217 at King 1090.
Hi, this is Tom Leykis. The next Tom Leykis show, you'll meet Andy Archambault, the man who was arrested recently in Michigan for stalking a woman by computer. Also, the latest on O.J. Simpson, including former L.A. District Attorney Ira Reiner. The Tom Leykis show, late afternoon, starting at 3 on King Newstalk 1090.
I'm Rick Miller. Quick facts before going to the calls. Rick, have you ever heard anyone on a cocaine tirade? It is nonstop and no response is ever possible. It was a classic performance. From Pam at Nordstrom. You know, I have made the observation yesterday that people that I have been involved with who were taking cocaine, using cocaine, who were on a coke high, are nonstop frenzied talkers. Absolutely no question about that. Of course, I believe that Nicole Simpson, she was asked, is he drinking? She said no. And I'm not sure whether they asked if he was, if she thought that he was on drugs or not. I can't remember that part, to tell you the truth. So it's very possible that he was on a coke tirade, a cocaine tirade, definitely. And I'm waiting to see if by any wild chance PCP is going to be introduced into the phrase somewhere. PCP is the ultra frenzied drug. It's a street drug. It's called angel dust. And let me just say that if you, the LA cops, the stun gun was invented for people on PCP. People on PCP, they do that moonwalk, and they have superhuman strength. If you ever find yourself in the company of someone on PCP, get away as quickly as you possibly can. I don't care how big or small they are, get away. They have superhuman strength, and they are out of their minds. Okay, to the calls we go. Asking a lot of questions, making a lot of points, but I guess the big thing is this. If you don't know now with a absolute certainty or a near certainty that O.J. Simpson is guilty of exactly what he was charged with, why in the hell don't you? Why don't you? Rick, in a phone booth, you're on King 1090.
Hi there. Well,
yes.
You were commenting a couple of minutes ago that, everybody is watching this. And
yeah.
Not really true. I'm not watching it intentionally because I think, first of all, there are much more important things in the world than this one case. There are, Bosnia, Rwanda, all manner of other things which probably should be discussed but are now on the sidelines. I mean, just little things like health care, maybe. And aside from that, I think it's basically unethical to have all this sort of information, particularly evidence that's going to be used in the courtroom, brought out before the trial starts. Because it effectively makes it impossible to have a fair trial.
Well, that's utter nonsense. Have you ever heard of the Menendez brothers? That's utter nonsense. Everything you have said so far, everything you have said is nonsense, but preposterous enters in with your last statement. The Menendez brothers have gotten a fair trial? How can you say that? How can you possibly say something like that? Have you thought about what you say? You're saying a politically correct thing, but have you thought about the words you're using?
I have, because what it means is the only people that you can get for your trial are those who have no idea what's going on in the world and haven't watched the sensationalized news for the last 6 months.
No, it's not true either.
Or,
what you've just said is not true. What's the other thing?
Or they don't really understand the what's going on.
Well, it's clear that most jurors don't understand what's going on. How much proof do you need, man? You're not much for gathering evidence and making empirical decisions from them, are you?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been on juries.
Oh, God. I hope you're not using that as a reference point.
Well, I'm using it as a reference because the questions that I was asked as a juror basically led me to believe that if I had heard of and had any real opinion on the case in question or the defendants or the lawyers or the judge, that you're not on the case.
Well, this is terrible now that you have admitted that you have been on a jury and that this is your impression of what it takes to serve on a jury, because you are absolutely wrong, and I find it very troubling that you were on a jury and didn't even know that. Are you under the impression that the only jurors that they will be seated in the O.J. Simpson case are people that haven't heard of the case?
No, only those that don't have an opinion.
That's right. That can keep an open mind. They will be asked, hey, are you open to the evidence that is presented, or has your mind already been made up? If your mind is already made up, they don't want you to serve if they can determine that your mind is made up one way or the other. But otherwise, you're fair game.
Well, I understand that that's the theory, but
that's not the theory. That's the fact.
Practice, it doesn't happen as often as we would like.
Oh, what's that based on?
The same observation.
What pontificating? I thought I was a pontificator, Rick, but you've got me beat. What's that based on? What you just said, what's that based on?
Well, based on the same observation from the cases where I saw people dismissed.
Yes.
That did not appear at least from my observation and seeing the questions and the answers, to have any particular bias.
Oh, and so because you had a subjective view of whatever the situation was, you've decided that that's the way it is in life and in the legal circles?
No, I don't imagine my subjective opinion is any less valid than the lawyers who are actually making the decision.
You think that your opinion in a legal case is just as valid, and your perception is just as valid as the lawyer that's involved in the case? Is that what you said? Is that what you said?
Assumed, yeah, because...
Oh my God, you are a pipsqueak. This is phenomenal. This is the most arrogant display of pipsqueakery I have ever heard.
Well, I think
what an inflated idea you have of your own value.
Excuse me?
You have a terribly inflated idea of your own value.
Well, the whole jury system is based on the fact that your average person's opinion is worthwhile, and that the jurors, as a collective group, can come to a decision that the lawyers and judges aren't necessarily qualified to do so.
Let's try a little something different with you, Rick. This could be good.
Okay.
Tell me, how do you analyze, from your perspective as a former juror and a man of opinions who is proud to speak them, how do you analyze the hung jury in both Menendez cases?
Actually, I didn't pay a great deal of attention to those cases.
No kid. So you can't analyze those hung juries.
Correct.
Well, Rick, I'm having a hard time understanding why you think your opinion is valuable. Do you think your opinion is valuable?
Certainly.
Why? Think, Rick.
Well, because I'm a reasonably intelligent person.
You haven't displayed it yet. I haven't seen one scintilla of intelligence demonstrated on the Rick Miller Show yet from you.
Well, that's because it's not visual. How could you see it?
You're dangerously close to a sub shop sandwich for that reply.
Well, gosh,
Rick, what else do you want to say? Rick, I think, you know what I think you are? I think that you are such a space-age liberal lefty out there on the left side of the universe that you can't possibly know. I'm not doubting that you have basic intelligence and that you're a good man and all that, but I don't think you're not demonstrating to me any analytic skills or interpretive skills or cognitive skills at all.
Well, that's pretty interesting. No, actually, I'm not all that far to the left, personally.
You called basically to say that the whole country isn't interested in this. Was that your basic point here?
Oh, certainly not. I understand that they're interested. I mean, they got 90 million people to watch the silly chase with the car.
You thought that was You thought that was a silly chase?
Well, I'm sure it was.
What a poseur!
Not silly to the people involved.
Rick. You are a poseur.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're a poseur.
Well, then I'll strike a poseur for you.
Have you ever called me before?
Once or twice.
Have we argued?
No, I think I agreed with you last time.
Oh. Do you think you've had a fair hearing? I know that I've engaged you probably more than you planned.
Yeah, certainly more than I expected.
Yeah.
You've given me more than my 30 seconds.
But do you feel that you've had a fair shake?
Certainly true.
All right, Rick, please call me again.
Will do.
Oh, wait a minute, Rick. I want you to have some sub shop sandwiches, too, because I think I jumped a little harder than I intended to.
I'm not too flat yet.
Pardon me?
I'm not too flat yet.
Okay, stay there, and I'm going to get you some sub shop sandwiches.
Great.
Andrea, if you please, we'll send Rick to the sub shop for some great sandwiches, about 30 different to choose from, and they're all real good. They're at the sub shops. They're all over Puget Sound. $12.29 now at King 1090.
There's a Seattle that even the locals haven't seen. A Seattle so beautiful, so breathtaking, so magnificent that even those who are aware of it can't get enough. It's the real reason Seattle has more boats per capita than anywhere in the United States. It's Seattle. From the water. Do you realize how many famous people live along the shores of Lake Washington? Do you know how large Seattle's port is? Or how many salmon run through its locks? You would if you cruised with Seattle Harbor Tours. Call Seattle Harbor Tours on Pier 55 at 623-4252. Seattle Harbor Tours offers 3 absolutely stunning views of the Seattle Harbor. Another is of the locks, and the third is of Lake Washington. These affordable tours are fully narrated in climate-controlled vessels with full-service bars. Now that summer's upon us, take this opportunity to experience Seattle's most compelling beauty. View Seattle from the water. Call Seattle Harbor Tours today, 623-4252.
King News Talk 1090 Midday News Update. 12:30 in the King 1090 News Center. I'm John Williams. Good afternoon. A tobacco company chairman accuses a Clinton administration official of conniving for political gain. Thomas Sandifer of Brown and Williamson says his company never deceived Congress about a plant the government says was bred for high nicotine. He also says cigarette smoking is not addictive.
I'll repeat, I do not believe that nicotine is addictive. I certainly believe that I'm entitled to express my views, even though they may differ from the opinions of others.
If tobacco companies lied to Congress about the safety of cigarettes, they face big trouble. Attorney General Janet Reno says the Justice Department is checking to see whether firms lied about nicotine levels and addictiveness. For the first time in 20 years, South Africa has a seat at the United
Together on King Newstalk 1090.
Already mostly cloudy skies in Seattle right now with 58 degrees. I'm John Williams, King Newstalk 1090.
Outspoken, outrageous, out loud. Spend more of your midday with Rick Miller on King Newstalk 1090.
Okay, the idea here, obviously... Oh, look at this. My Milky Way Light. I forgot to put that in my pocket. I better put that in my pocket here. The new Milky Way Light candy bar. 160 calories, 50% less fat. Let's see how many fats there are in there. How many grams? 150 calories, that's okay. And 5 grams of fat. Well, you know what? For a candy bar, that's pretty good. Of course, now what we have to find out, in fact, that's real good. Now, of course, we have to find out whether it's any good or not. And I'll give it a taste test a little bit later. What we're trying to accomplish here for a while, what the kind of people I'd like to talk to are people that think that O.J. Simpson is innocent. And why can't you take a good hard look at the evidence and come to a clear conclusion? I will allow that in this case there is room for doubt to the following degree. 0.0000000000000001. That is the degree of doubt available as far as I'm concerned in this case. So that, of course, means that 99.000 and infinitesimally long 000s before we get to the 99 is certainty. The mathematics on this show are coming off the top of my head and guaranteed to be absolutely correct. 441-5464 in Seattle and 1-800-833-5464 throughout the state. Let me just say one other quick thing. This is one of the things I was going to definitely talk about in the lead, and I'm moving it up fast, right? I didn't lead with it, but I'm going with it right now. I'm going to tell you about it real quick. In fact, in one sentence. You know this do-gooder in Seattle that has this idea of selling maps, color-coded or whatever, for sex offenders, giving the location of sex offenders? Big story in the papers. This guy thinks he's performing a community service, blah, blah, blah. If I was the cops or a benevolent dictator, which is what I richly deserve, I would put this guy out of business so fast your head would spin. And the cops and the legal authorities should make this illegal instantly. The very idea that a private citizen can go around and publicly identify areas or whatever where sex offenders have been known to be at one time or another is unconscionable, unconscionably irresponsible on the part of the guy that's doing it, and to think he's masquerading as a good do-gooder. I find it phenomenal. I would put this guy out of business so fast, and then I'd publish his picture with a great big headline, "The Picture of Irresponsibility." Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This guy should be put out of business, and that should be against the law for so many reasons that the mind boggles. But the words vigilante, hysterical masses, and people that move and are no longer at the location that your map shows, and then you come and you start demonstrating or do this or do that, and what do you know? It's the wrong place. You can't let the masses have information like this. They will misuse it. Good Lord. You know, Rick, it's going to be hard to get this world straight, or this country straight, without a real amount of power like that of a benevolent dictator. I don't know that you can do it just from your pulpit. I mean, from your microphone. Mike in Wallflower, you're on King 1090.
Rick, I don't know whether to buy you a bottle of Thunderbird or get you a cheap hooker. But anyways, as far as O.J. Simpson goes,
yeah.
You know what I heard today on that tape? Everybody heard a personality that never came out before that the media tried to cover up. You know what I heard? I heard rage. I heard hurt. I heard a man being involved with a woman that had drove him to the brink of madness. Hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
Psychological hurt. He got involved with an 18-year-old runaround from California that he had blonde hair. I'm beautiful. I'm cute. Hoo hoo hoo. And she had no idea of motherhood, womanhood, nothing. And she just drove this man to the brink of madness. And it was hurt. What I saw, I didn't laugh at those tapes that they've been playing all over the country. I didn't laugh at that. That was hurt. That man was hurt. I don't care that he kicked in the back door. If it would have been my house, I would have kicked in the back door.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm not denying for a second that was rage and hurt, and I'm sure you're correct on that.
And plus, she's living with another man when he kicks in the back door.
No, she's not. She's not at all. She's not living with some guy at all. No, that's not true. Where'd you get that?
You're right. What I got was in the earlier part of this tape, she was telling the 911 operator that it was something that I had done before.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So
I'm going to grant you that I have speculated on this for several days that Nicole Simpson, beautiful young woman, and may have been during the marriage, but certainly was free after they were separated to date all that she wanted. And O.J. Simpson obviously went ballistic over that fact.
Yeah, but a lot of men do that, Rick.
Well, you're dangerously close.
You ever been married?
Wait a minute. You're dangerously close. By the way, the correct question there wouldn't be, have you ever been married? The correct question you should ask me if you really want to learn anything is, have I ever been maniacally in love? That's the question, which I'm not going to, and I've answered that before too, but I don't want to be sidetracked here. You are dangerously close to saying if a woman really makes you angry or hurts your feelings, you're entitled to extract some kind of, or impose some kind of penalty.
Rick, you got to look at the
aren't you?
You got to look at the animal kingdom.
You think she was at the
No,
I don't want to talk about animals. Do you think that Nicole? I'm putting you in the cooler. I'm not dumping you yet, Mike. I want to talk to you, but you're going in the cooler. I want you to give me a very straight answer to the following question. Oh, Mike did he just hang up? He already hung up. Well, hey, look, Mike was the question I was going to ask Mike is, was Nicole Simpson asking for it? I'm pretty sure that I know what Mike's answer would have been. And the idea that a woman can do anything to you at all that causes her to deserve to be beaten is absolutely, monstrously false. You are not allowed to beat up a woman for any reason. Period. There are other ways to handle these things, but beating them up. The woman made me do it thing that Mike was dangerously close to really chills my bones. 1242 at King 1090.
Hi, Rich. What's up?
You know what's up, Bruce. It's that time again here at Ballard Camera.
No, say it isn't so.
It is so. The dreaded inventory. End of the fiscal year kind of thing. It's coming up June 30th.
And?
We've got a whole warehouse full of Canon cameras, lenses, that kind of thing. And I don't want to count them.
Neither do I. Hey, Rich.
Yeah?
Evan's out of town. We could have a big sale.
Let's offer everybody some great deals on all this Canon merchandise. Like the Canon SureShot A1.
The compact, lightweight, stylish, waterproof 35mm camera with precise, active, smart autofocus.
Yeah.
Panorama mode. Underwater operation guaranteed to depth depth of 16.4 feet.
That's the Canon Sure Shot A1, Bruce.
And Rich, we've got to get rid of the gadget banks.
Yep.
Let's do 50% off.
Sounds good. Let's tell everybody to get down here to Ballard Camera right now. Help us clear out all this Canon stuff so we don't have to count it for inventory.
They can save on all kinds of merchandise.
There's only one other thing.
And what would that be?
You got to tell them the address.
Oh, yeah. 1836 Northwest Market. Ballard Camera, in the heart of downtown Ballard.
Yeah.
It's sweet. It's funny. It's the ultimate date movie.
A must-see on cable TV.
Love is in the air. Make that the airwaves as a radio call-in show turns into romantic destiny. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks star in Sleepless in Seattle. Share it with someone you love Saturday at 8 on Showtime.
There's more to see on cable TV.
3 of the bloodiest days in American history are now 2 of the most dramatic nights in television. TNT presents Gettysburg. The fighting begins Sunday night and continues on Monday. Catch both parts at 5 or 8 p.m.
So much to see on cable TV.
From the height of romance to the trenches of war, you'll find it on cable TV. For installation, call 1-800-CABLE-ME.
Unpredictable, unconventional, unruly. Pat Cashman and Company. Weekday mornings on King News Talk 1090.
1245 at King 1090. I'm really disappointed that Mike hung up. I was interested in 2 things. Number one, I would have asked him and wanted to know if he thought that it was justifiable to hit a woman because of something like this. In other words, if he subscribes to the idea that she made me do it. I'd like to have heard his answer to that. I would have also liked to have heard his answer about his own personal experience. He obviously was dealing with some anger himself. And I would have liked to have heard what that was all about. Mike, if you care to call back in, you may do so. And I'll take your call immediately if you do. This idea of angry men out there saying that women deserve it. Oh, is he back? Okay. Saying that women deserve it is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I've got one ticket. It's toll-free statewide at 1-800-833-5464. Mike, I'm glad you called back. The question very simply is this. Do you think that there are cases where the woman deserves it or where the woman makes you do it?
Neither. I think that if somebody were to make me that mad, I would leave, especially with his amount, regardless of whether I had money or not. If somebody enraged me to the point of, I don't know, of doing what happened to those 2 bodies,
yeah,
I would have probably left. But I can see, I can't condone it, but I can see psychologically manipulating somebody by telling them that you're so much in love with them and then doing contrary things to that to where you drive a person insane and then you get the media behind you to back you up.
What is it? Wait a minute. I'm not following what you just said. Be a little more clear on that. Are you saying that the woman, well, I don't want to do the work here. I want you to do it.
Well, no, there's a lot of women that go out on guys.
Yeah, right.
So the guy's always deeply in love with her. He gets her out of a restaurant, and all of a sudden she's in the limelight. She's got a beautiful house and a good life.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's thinking to himself, you got to remember, this is a kid that wasn't, you know, brought up and went through the, I mean, you know, this was a street kid. And how?
No, Mike, stick to the facts. She was not. She was a beautiful, a homecoming queen from a very a well-to-do family. She wasn't any street kid.
No, I said him.
Oh, OJ, yeah.
Yeah, not her, him.
Yeah.
And so that was the only way he could deal with it. But I saw a lot of hurt there, and I think, I mean, you know, sure.
But you seem to be using the hurt as some kind of a justification.
As some kind of a justification.
You seem
I don't know. I think that would have to come into play sooner or later.
What would have to come into play?
The Mendezes. How do you pronounce that? Mendezes?
Yeah, Mendezes.
well, the Mendez brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, they were hurt. I mean, their whole defense was
Mike,
the pain that
I'm
their
going to
parents
concede
had
to you.
caused them.
Mike, I'm going to concede to you that there are women out there, and Nicole Simpson was probably one of them, and that the Menendez parents were some others that hurt people, that hurt their kids or hurt their husbands or hurt their lovers or hurt their boyfriends. I will concede all of that to you. The question is, so what?
Well, I'll tell you something. I've been winning a lot of money all my life. I'm a gambler. And I'll bet you that Simpson gets off, and when he gets off, I'll call you back.
How's he going to get off? On what grounds?
He's going to get off. He's just
on what grounds? Show me your brain power. On what grounds?
On what grounds?
Yes.
You know probably what grounds?
What grounds? Tell me.
What grounds? Innocent.
Okay. What kind of a gambler are you, Mike?
Well, I just won $34,000.
Doing what?
In 2 games.
Doing what?
On the Houston Rockets.
What, do you bet with a bookie?
All the time. I bet Houston at last September. Houston was going to win it. I got 6-1 odds, and I put down a load on that one, and I bet the 6th game.
Wow. Are you celebrating right now?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm not advocating brutality.
Are you having a few drinks, Mike? Are you having a few drinks?
Huh?
Are you having a few drinks?
Am I having a few drinks?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Mike, are you a professional gambler?
Yeah.
What do you do? Tell me what you do as a professional gambler. What kind of things do you bet on?
What kind of things do I bet on?
Geez, Mike, you're a professional gambler. I mean, is that too tricky a question for you? Yes. What kind of things do you gamble on?
Sports and craps. And occasionally I'll back a poker player if he's good.
Oh, you'll back a poker player?
Yeah, I'll back a poker player.
In what kind of in a private game?
Yeah.
What kind of stakes?
What do you mean what kind of stakes? It's $1,000 to $15,000.
And so you bet sports, and it is a fact, as far as I know, a lot.
Sports will bring you in the most money.
Well, let me tell you something, my friend. I also have a big background in gambling. In fact, I once considered myself...
Well, you ought to meet me at the Viking Bar. You know where the Viking Bar in Ballard is? I'll have an orange hard hat on. Go to Ballard. Yeah, go to the Viking Bar in Ballard.
Okay, I'll find you sometime. But I wanted to make this point.
I'll have an orange hard hat on.
Okay, Mike, but I want
that big time.
But Mike, I wanted to make a point here.
Yeah.
Of all of the many years that I was involved in serious gambling, I will tell you that the biggest suckers of all, you can make money if you're a good poker player. But that's the only place you can. And the biggest losers of all are the ones that bet the sports. The sports bettors always lose.
It's the biggest payoff.
But how do you stand over a year's time on betting the baskets or the horses or whatever?
In the last year, I've lost $14,000 and I've won $38,000. So I'm I'm about $17,000 ahead.
You're more than that. 14, 24, 34. You're $24,000.
$24,000 ahead in 1 year.
Wait a minute. You said you wear a hard hat. Does that mean
I would never do that on a crap table? Although I do pretty good on a crap table.
Tell me how do you bet the craps? Tell me how you bet them.
I always bet with the house. Unless I'm shooting.
You mean you bet you say don't pass?
I side bet.
You say don't pass? You bet don't pass? There's only one way to play craps. Everybody knows it. You play the pass line, you bet the pass line, and take the odds. Everybody knows that.
That's what I do.
Well, that isn't what you said.
I just...
Hey, don't quit your day job. Are you also you say a hard hat. Are you a hard laborer?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where your real income comes from, right, Mike?
Yeah.
God love you. I enjoyed talking to you, Mike, immensely.
But Rick,
maybe I'll find you down at the Viking Bar.
Rick, one last thing about O.J.
quick,
Simpson.
Mike. Yeah. God. Yeah.
When he comes in innocent, and he's going to be found innocent, I'm going to be at the Viking Bar. I'll have an orange hard hat on. I want you to come in. I'm going to buy you beer.
No, I'll buy you one.
All right.
Thanks for calling, Mike.
All right, bye.
All right, the Viking Bar. See, I can't help it, but whenever I hear that a guy's a hard hat or something like that, works with his hands, a hard-working guy, probably works up a sweat, I always like people like that. I don't know why, and I probably will go to the Viking Bar and make a bet with him on something. 12:53 at King 1090.
Rick Miller on King Newstalk 1090.
Well, I'm here with PC Modem, the computer genius from CompUSA, the computer superstar. Bob, you look and sound exhausted. I spent the entire day walking around CompUSA, and that must be the biggest computer store in the country.
1254, King 1090. I'm Rick Miller. To Chris we go in car phone on King 1090.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mr. Chris?
You know, I'm just struck with something here. I've been on hold for some time, so I kind of forget what I told Andrea I was going to say. But here, Mike struck me with this. There's a couple kinds of people in this world. Those who can understand and sympathize with O.J.'s actions, even though they believe he might be guilty.
Yeah.
And a guy like Mike could someday be incited to murder himself because he understands that rage that O.J. felt.
Yeah.
There are those of us in the world who might lend an ear of sympathy to that emotion, but cannot understand how it could end up in murder.
Well, I think that's true, and I don't want to actually to have any characterizations of callers as having that kind of potential. But your point is well taken. When you are understanding, it's troubling when someone is too understanding of a nefarious act.
I don't care if she was having sex with a boyfriend while she was married to him in front of him. You don't murder her.
Well, no, you certainly don't murder, but I think Mike was talking more about the beating. You know,
you don't beat her.
No, well, I agree.
I don't care. If you walk in on her cheating on you, you don't beat her.
What do you do, though? In the real world, what do you do if you find yourself? There are women who are chipping on men. There are women who are cheating on men. Yeah. And what should a man do if he's deeply in love and runs into that?
Oh, he figures out that he's made a mistake somehow, and
he's very rational.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that would be the thing to do.
Okay. What's your next point?
Now, the children.
Yeah.
You asked about his kids. Where were they encountering and stuff? I happen to remember being a child and being in a situation like that, and the kids may have well been awake, listening, but scared to death. You're not going to go down and say, "Hey, Dad, knock it off."
Yeah.
Because you've seen Dad in this tirade before, and you know he's irrational. So it's very, very possible that during that 13-minute phone conversation that she had with 911 while he was tirading, that they were listening and just keeping their mouth shut and keeping quiet to avoid being in the middle of it and having the brunt of the situation come to them.
I imagine we'll find out more about that as time goes by.
Yeah, I would imagine we do. You want to hear something real interesting?
Yes, of course I do.
Well, of course you do. Now, maybe you can make something out of this, maybe you can't. And I'm not sure exactly what it says about me. And I'll be a little honest here, so don't attack me with it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm real curious about this, so I ask a lot of people, hey, what do you think about this O.J. Simpson thing? What are your thoughts and feelings on it? And I know some black people in my job, and I avoid the question with them.
Why?
I don't know.
You don't ask them?
No. I think that I'm wondering if... Now, this just started yesterday because of the question of racism. Before it was popped out there, I wouldn't have thought about it.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering if the black people are wondering what my motives are for asking them this question.
I wonder if you might be being a little oversensitive on that, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
I think maybe I am. So next time I see one of the black people that I work with, I should just say, hey, what do you think about the O.J. thing?
Well, pick your spot. I mean, have some context, for God's sakes. I wouldn't go up to a total stranger. Let us know what happens, will you?
I will.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Thank you very much. We'll find out. We'll squeeze in a quickie here with Lucille in downtown Seattle on King 1090. Hi, Lucille.
Hi, Rick. Gee, I tell you, I think that we don't even need a trial. You and the district attorney have already made up your mind that he's guilty.
Uh-huh.
Even on just circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
And I think that the district attorney is using the media for his case, and I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's right for the media to help him out this way. It should all be within the guidelines of the trial and not out just raising hell like he is.
Well, don't you think the DA is also using the...
They have hardly said anything, actually, except to say that to make them admit that there was no bloody ski match, and also the kid that was accused, that they said, rather, that lived in the cottage the police said that he said O.J. wasn't there.
All right. Well, I certainly get your point, Lucille. I think it's a minority opinion, but valued nonetheless. More of the Rick Miller Show coming up, my friends, right after the news at King 1090. It's 1 o'clock.
Don't get stuck in the right-wing rut. News Talk with balance and variety. KING Seattle.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Linda Moore.
Michael's primary objective is to clear his name.
George Fay is talking about his teenage son, Michael, who was whipped 4 times in Singapore with a rattan cane. The 19-year-old Fay just returned to Kettering, Ohio, after spending 83 days in a Singapore jail for vandalism. He has said that he did not spray paint any cars and claims he was tortured into a false confession, a charge Singapore authorities deny. Now Fay's dad says it's time for the truth to come out.
What he wants to do is talk. Now we're going to have to find a forum, and really the first forum that I would like him to go through is the U.S. Senate.
Meanwhile, another teen has been caned in Singapore. A 17-year-old from Hong Kong, who was apparently a part of Fay's alleged vandalism spree, is reported in satisfactory condition today. Now this.
Dijonnaise, best food. Dijonnaise makes great holidays. Dijonnaise.
For July with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
.106 King 1090. I'm Rick Miller. The O.J. Simpson story, obviously looming large in our thoughts. Incongruities, misconceptions, new evidence. It just keeps coming out. Gosh, this is there's this story that another thing that I simply do not know what to make of it. Obviously, we don't know what happened and how exactly those terrible murders were committed. I mean, we don't know. They're speculating that the perpetrator came up behind Ron Goldman and hit him in the back of the head and killed him first. But they say that there was a ferocious struggle put up and all that. I have a very, very hard time understanding how people, if O.J. Simpson was the perpetrator, I have a hard time understanding why he wasn't all scratched up, big time. If he just killed 2 people, and one of them apparently put up a heck of a fight, and he was a young guy, 25 years old, and a bodybuilder at that, could be expected to give a very good account of himself, even if surprised and stunned, perhaps, right off the bat. When you have a violent action against some other person, your body shows it instantly, and it's not just scratches. You're black and blue. You're bruised. You have all kinds of marks and scars if you've been in a fight, a fresh fight. It's unavoidable. And yet, nobody's talking about this. The only thing you hear is that O.J. Simpson's right hand is cut, and Shapiro, his attorney, explains that as paper cuts and a broken glass, which has never rung true to me. But I just silently wonder, what about the scratches? They apparently they checked his body. They didn't see any scratches when they arrested him originally, or when they briefly arrested him, when they took him in, when they had him in custody originally. They didn't see anything like that. And people that were on the airplane, I mean, the stewardesses who say, one stewardess says, well, his hand was always in a bag, but now apparently a guy across the aisle said, no, his hand wasn't always in a bag. I saw his hand. I've never understood that. I mean, it's just another one of the mysteries, the imponderables that I suppose will come out. Maybe the cops know all these answers and are just sitting on them. I don't know. We have the limo driver saying that Simpson had been home on June the 12th when we have the lawyer saying that Simpson had been home on June the 12th when the limousine driver arrived. And TV show Hard Copy reported the driver arrived at 10:45 p.m. and Simpson arrived at 11 p.m. looking sweaty. There's just all kinds of small little details that I scarcely know what to make of. We also have this fax. Attention, Rick. Why is O.J. Simpson such big news and certainly turning into the biggest story of our decade? His suspected actions shake up the very foundation of our perception of the epitome of success and our achievement of the American dream. Are we mourning O.J. Simpson or our own values? I will be listening for your thoughts. Your favorite listener in Renton, Suzanne. Suzanne H., I believe that is. Wow, are we mourning O.J. Simpson or our own values? You know, that might be a question for us to ask of ourselves, and certainly those that are holding out for O.J.'s innocence. Are we mourning the loss, the demise, the assault on our own values? I suppose that could indeed be true. Definitely could be true. Now, I know I haven't had one single comment on this sex offender map deal. Do you know the story? Can I briefly give it to you? An Issaquah businessman said that he'll produce and offer computerized maps to police agencies and concerned citizens showing where sex offenders live in King County. The maps do not give names or addresses of offenders. They show the number of offenders living in the county's various neighborhoods. And this man, Kevin Worth, said that all of the sex offender information on the maps comes from King County Police. Detective Joe Beard, who handles sex offender registration for Snohomish County, foresees only trouble with the maps. He said that sexual offenders move so often that the maps quickly become inaccurate. He said Snohomish County has had 300 sexual offender address changes since January. I think this is going to cause real problems, he said. These census tracts would basically give people a false sense of security in some parts of the county, and make other people overreact elsewhere. I couldn't agree more. This man, Kevin Worth, has a terrible, god-awful idea. He should be put out of business instantly by the authorities. No good can come of this. And I have this one little side question. This is the last paragraph in the story. Quote, seeking support for his maps, Worth will hold a public meeting at 7 p.m. next Monday, and I'm not going to give the address, but it's the Foursquare Church, the City Foursquare Church. Now, there's a Foursquare Church, I believe, right across the street from our place, just up a little bit towards Denny. I think there's a Foursquare Church. I've got to admit to you, I have heard of the Foursquare Church many, many times, and I'm sorry to say I don't know a thing about the Foursquare Church. I don't know. But I am very troubled. I am very troubled that any church is going to allow its premises to be used for this enterprise. Any church. Therefore, I am suspicious and troubled about the Foursquare Church. Anyone that wants to shed light on that is perfectly welcome, but I don't think you can have these private enterprises that border, private enterprises period, but private enterprises that border on vigilanteism, that border on citizens involving themselves in police work. I don't think you can ever allow that in any church, ever. I'm telling you, my friends, it's not fewer laws we need, it's more laws and more authorities and more government. We need a blue collar, we need a blue shirt with a badge and a gun on every street corner, and take care of these people once and for all so we have a place that's safe for you and me. Praise the Lord. Ronette, wait a minute, Ronette, just a minute, Ronette. Ronette, give the phone numbers, will you please?
The phone numbers? I don't know, I don't live here.
441-5464 in Seattle and 1-800-833-5464. Those are my numbers throughout the state. And toll-free at star 1090 if you have a cell 1 phone. Ronette in Federal Way, who has now admitted she doesn't live here, you're on King 1090.
Yes, I'm calling. I find it quite ironic. I'm on my way up to the Red Lion Inn here for a workshop conference for Compassionate Friends.
Yeah?
And one of the workshops that I'm going to be taking there is the homicide death of a child. We had a similar thing in our family, an O.J. coming in and doing the same thing to our daughter and her boyfriend, and he committed suicide shortly after.
Now, I don't need any of these details. What are you here to... What are you here to say?
Well, I'm here to say that maybe the listening audience might think about Nicole's family, Ron's family, or Jay's family, the other end of it. You know, what they're going through.
What's this organization you're with?
The Compassionate Friends.
What does that mean? What is that?
Well, the Compassionate Friends is a group of people nationwide who are parents that have lost children.
Oh, I see. Have you lost a child?
Yes, I have.
Uh-huh. And that's why you're involved in this?
Yes, that's why I'm involved.
Oh, boy.
But see, our daughter was killed in the same way.
By
a boyfriend that come into her home and shot her and the friend she was with. And we have compassion for all three of the families involved here.
How long ago was that?
10 years ago.
How are you doing on this?
I think I'm doing pretty good, actually. It took a long time, you know, and it's nothing that you ever recover from, you know.
Yeah. What made you get through it? What was the biggest thing that helped you to get through this?
Probably the fact that I had a very supporting family and I had 3 other children.
Yeah. I must say that the thought of losing a child absolutely paralyzes me.
Mm-hmm.
It just paralyzes me, as I'm sure it does most people.
Mm-hmm.
So you somehow build up the strength, and so you are involved in an enterprise. Are you paid for this, or is this all?
Oh, no. Compassionate Friends is a total volunteer group of men and women, and I think it might do the media some good to attend some of those workshops. They're for today, tomorrow, and Saturday, and there's all kinds of workshops dealing with all kinds of deaths, but the homicide death is one of the workshops that I will be attending up here.
Well, I'll tell you what then. Give us quickly the address. There may be some people that have a specific interest in this, and I'd like them to know where it is. So go ahead and give the address.
Well, it's right at the Red Lion Hotel, right at SeaTac here.
Red Lion at SeaTac, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure what rooms it's in. I imagine if they contact...
They could call the Red Lion at SeaTac and get the information on Compassionate Friends.
Yes.
Good luck to you, Ronette.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that would be... I think there may be people out there that could use those kinds of support services, and there they are for the Compassionate Friends workshops at the Red Lion SeaTac this weekend, and you can call the Red Lion SeaTac for further information. 117 at King 1090.
My name is Friday. I carry a badge. My job, spot the unbelievable and find the truth. When the call came in, I knew we had a live one. It's Friday.
Already? I had a lot to do this week.
No, Friday. Joe, Friday.
Oh, Joe. Have you heard about the $5 million diamond event at International Jewelers?
It sounded too good to be true. I headed to International Jewelers to investigate, and since I just hung up on the sergeant, it seemed like a good time to get out of the station house. All right, miss. You work for International Jewelers?
I do.
Okay. Give me the facts.
Well, at International Jewelers, we're having our $5 million diamond event. That means we have the largest collection of certified loose diamonds in Northwest history at the lowest prices of the year, just 10% above the New York wholesale price.
Call it instinct, but I trusted the woman. Okay, miss, where can I find International Jewelers?
Across from Tacoma Mall, South Center, Bellevue Square, and now across from Alderwood Mall.
Upon further questioning, I found out that the $5 million diamond event was happening this weekend only at the International Jewelers across from Bellevue Square, but you'd better hurry. I'm likely to get there first. I'm using the siren.
One 120 at King 1090. We were just admiring that music by John Campbell. Boy, that was nice. Very nice. You know, a little bit later also, I have an article from the Los Angeles Times. I know that Tom Likas had these people on yesterday. I did not hear his show, but if you did, you know that he had on Judith Chevron, a clinical psychologist, and James Siszkowski, who holds a doctorate in human behavior, and they have written the most preposterous article in the commentary section of the Los Angeles Times that I have ever read, and I have now acquainted myself with the details here. I understand that Tom Likas did not take these people downtown to the cleaners, and they certainly should have been taken to the cleaners based on the kind of nonsense I'm reading in this article. And very shortly I will give you the contents so you will know exactly what we're talking about, and I will wonder aloud for us all how in the world clinical psychologists and doctorates in human behavior can say things so stupid, so brain challenged, and say things with such certainty that are not backed up by any kind of data at all. This is phenomenal. You know, it's no wonder that we have so many problems finding the truth or understanding anything. It is down when a stupid and uneducated man or woman has an opinion that is stupid and uneducated, that's one thing. That's tolerable. No problem with me on that. I understand. I'll give them slack all over the place. But when learned people, people with degrees, clinical psychologists, doctorates in human behavior, when they say impossibly stupid things and deliver analysis that is bordering, I believe, on the reprehensible and irresponsible, those people will get no slack from me. Why? Because they should know better. Oh, am I going to take these two apart? That's coming up pretty soon. 122 at King 1090. Back to the calls we go. Megan Bothell, you're on King 1090.
Hi. I just want to, excuse me, I'm very nervous.
Well, good deal, Meg. I'm nervous. You know, I've been a little nervous today myself.
Well, I'm a first-time caller.
Okay.
And I was calling as on your question as far as if the children knew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely knew what was going on, and they probably always have. Mm-hmm. But from my own experience as a small child, when something like that's going on, you hide. And as you get older, you may get involved and try and intervene. And, you know, and in that case, you might most likely get hit and beaten also then.
Yeah.
But as a small child, as young as those two are, no, they couldn't physically do anything to their father. And I don't think even calm him down when a person's in that state of mind and they're that angry.
Yeah. Have you had some personal experience with this?
Yes.
You want to tell us about it?
Well, I mean, I come from an abusive home.
Uh-huh.
My father was very abusive. He abused all the kids. And
physically?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And mentally, because, you know, it's not just hitting, it's words also.
Sure.
And in a lot of cases, that sometimes hurts even more.
Yeah.
Because you just, you know, that's something goes over and over in your mind. Your bruises heal, mm-hmm. and you can run and hide, and you can run away, and things like that. But
can you give us an example of something that your father said that you still remember?
Oh, well, I grew up most of my life instead of thinking my name was dummy.
Oh God. How old were you when that was going on?
Oh, my whole life at home.
Oh my gosh. Did your what about your mother? Did she say? How did she react to that?
Well, she was always the main target for the abuse. You know, even because she would defend us.
Yeah.
And so, you know, then she would get hit, and it would go on, you know, to...
How long did this go on?
Well, my whole life at home for 18 years.
You moved out when you were 18?
Yeah.
And is your father still alive?
Oh, yeah. My parents are still married, and it's still going on.
He's still batting your mother around?
Yeah.
Does he try and bat around? Do you see him?
Yeah.
Does he make it? Does he attempt to? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Does he attempt or succeed in beating any of you now?
Oh no, because
Only when you moved out you were safe?
Yeah.
The mother is still getting beat up?
Yeah.
Physically?
Yeah.
And do you talk to your mother about that?
Oh, yeah.
What does she say?
She's in total denial. You know,
I mean, does she get beat up to the point where you can see bruises?
No, I don't think so much anymore.
What does he do, slap her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever talked to him about it?
Yeah.
What's he say?
He admits it, and he just gets in this blind rage that, you know, he can't control it. We've taken him to counseling and all kinds of things, you know, and it doesn't seem to, you know, to ever change. And it has a lot to do with the era. I mean, my parents have been married 54 years. And when my mother was younger and had less children than she eventually, you know, had, she was told by her father or her brothers or, you know, I mean, people tried defending her and everything, but her father eventually said, well, you made your bed, now lay in it. I mean, it's a cultural thing. It's not something that's just happened. This has gone on forever, you know, where when a man is displeased with the way the woman acts or a child acts, and he can get angry and he can lash out, you know, and it's ignored more times than not.
How do you feel about life and yourself and your life now?
Well, I have a very, very good life. I do. I mean, when I was dating my husband and when we got married, and he knew about how what I grew up in and everything, being raised in that, I told him that, you know, that's something I'd never, ever put up with. I never would.
And you told him that?
Oh, yes. And I told him, I said, if you ever get to that point, just remember, you have to go to sleep, too. Sometime.
And you have kids?
Yes.
Well, Meg, do you feel do you feel scarred?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And so the scar tissue has formed, but it seems that you have made the decision not to let it ruin your life and to learn positive lessons from this terrible stuff.
Oh, yeah. See, and that's something else I wanted to say was about O.J. Simpson. I wanted very much to believe he was innocent. But with the evidence and the tapes, I'm very upset after hearing those tapes. You know, the 911 calls.
Yeah.
And the thing is that he is a rich man, and he could have gone and gotten counseling. I know he has scars, but there are alternatives. I mean, I think as any human being, in some point in their life, they get so angry that they want to lose control.
Yeah.
But you can't let yourself lose control. And, you know, there are alternatives. He was just obsessive, and that is sick.
Meg, I want you to know that I am bowled over by your skill in handling a first-time call. Dear.
Okay, bye-bye.
129 at King 1090.
I want to tell you about what is probably the most important sales event ever staged by one furniture retailer.
Are roaches. Increasingly resistant to one solution. The exterminator, the Orkin Man. He breaks down roaches' natural immunities by alternating his weapons to prevent the buildup of resistance. Then he blocks their return with his sophisticated micro-encapsulated barrier. No matter how roaches adapt, they can't stand up to the exterminator. Guaranteed, or your money back. The exterminator, the Orkin Man. One call destroys them all. Guarantee based on customer satisfaction and applies to last monthly payment. Call Orkin for details.
In some ways, maybe Albertsons looks like any other supermarket.
meat and produce, aisles of groceries, rows of checkout stands. But we have one thing no other supermarket has. 55 years of Joe Albertson's philosophy. Treat the customers right. Because as Joe said, anyone can sell a can of beans. We want to sell good service. Come see. Join us for our Founders Day celebration now through June 28th.
You'll find special Founders Day savings on Good Day 22.5-ounce sliced white or wheat bread, 3 loaves for just $1. And look what $1 will buy in the produce department. This week, Northwest grown Bing cherries are just $1 a pound.
We have to work hard to make it happen. Maybe that's why we are who we are.
His name's still on our sign, so we still do things Joe's way.
Albertsons, it's your store.
1:34 now at King News Talk 1090. Janet Ryan, how's traffic?
Well, we have an accident reported 99 at 525 in the left lane up the Mukilteo Speedway area. Also, northbound 405 at 160th, a stalled semi reportedly blocks your right lane. Northbound 5 has been slow from the Convention Center up to the Mercer exit, mainly in the exit lane itself for quite some time. Suspect some road work down on Mercer. And eastbound 520 is a little slow getting through the Arboretum. King 1090 weather, partly to mostly cloudy with rain off and on today, highs in the low 60s. It's 1:35. And that's traffic and weather together on King News Talk 1090.
And right now in Seattle, we have cloudy skies with 61 degrees. I'm John Williams, King News Talk 1090.
Outspoken, outrageous, out loud. Spend more of your midday with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
1:35 at King 1090. Overcast in Seattle today. Well, that's all right. We had a nice summer so far. 2 days worth. I can't believe that that little fat little rabble-rouser Tom Likas, whose show I enjoy immensely, did not excoriate his guests yesterday, Judith Shervin and James, I can't pronounce this guy's name, James Sinkowchewicz. I think I'll just call him James. James S. They have an article here in the commentary section of the Los Angeles Times, and I'm only going to tell you 2 things they say. I don't need any more than this to know that these people deserve to be taken to the cleaners. They say under their byline the following quote, talking about abuse, talking about domestic violence. They say, and I quote, "Only when we come to terms with the fact that domestic violence is the responsibility of both men and women can we put a stop to this horrible nightmare," unquote. What a bunch of BS. What a surefire blueprint prescription for never knowing the truth about anything regarding domestic violence. The very idea that domestic violence is the responsibility of both men and women really, really puts the onus in the wrong place. A woman is entitled to behave in whatever way she wants, in whatever way that is. For a man to belt her is never justifiable, period. And when egghead professors and clinical psychologists and doctors, people holding PhDs, say something contrary to that, it is a real disservice. I think it is clearly irresponsible. The very idea that women can be on the same plane as men where domestic violence is concerned is not troubling, is not merely irresponsible and incorrect. It is so misleading as to be very nearly dangerous. Why? Because, as usual, you will never, ever be able to understand or solve any problem. And this is a big one. Men beating up women. That's a big problem. And you will never be able to solve it. You'll never get a handle on it until you describe the problem accurately. And if you're going to waste half your time talking about all the women that beat up men, or all the women that were asking for it, it's going to take precious time, money, and resources away from where it needs to be, that is, to identify and solve the problem. It's just, you know what it's just like? It's just like refusing to acknowledge where the gangs come from and saying, well, we've got gangs, we got white gangs in Bellevue, so we'll have an equal allocation of it's all equal. So we'll have equal resources spent in Bellevue breaking up the chess club and Rainier Valley, where there's some very tough black and minority gangs operating. This kind of thinking just galls me beyond belief. Here's the other thing. I'd like to see him back this statistic up. This is offered in this article as a fact, but is there any attribution? Any source given at all for this? None. Here's the quote. Here's the so-called fact, and I quote: half of spousal murders are committed by wives. A statistic that has been stable over time. That's just an assertion given by these two people in Los Angeles. Half of spousal murders are committed by wives. What baloney. BS. Give me your statistics. Give me your facts. Give me the contents of that little bit of information. Give me your source. Give me your resource on that one. I think that's the biggest bunch of BS I've ever heard. I can't imagine Lycus not challenging them on something like this. And there's also, you better take into consideration context. Context, by the way, it's a word you're going to start hearing a lot on the Rick Miller Show. If you fail to grasp the context in any situation, number one, you're not going to understand it. Number two, you are sure to leap to the wrong conclusions. If you want to see the folly of taking things out of context, listen to any day of the Rush Limbaugh Show, not just the sissified draft dodger, but the callers as well, and you will see the pure folly of it all. I'd like to say that's the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard, that half of spousal murders are committed by wives. I'd like to see that statistic. Where's that come from? Give me the facts on that. And also, there's this to consider in context. If there are women who have killed their husbands, I hope that these deep-thinking researchers ask one more question, which is, how many years were these women beaten half to death before, as a final act of desperation, they killed the guy? I hope they ask that question. 140 at King 1090.
Middays with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
Hey, Julie, do you remember that feeling you got when you drove home in that cherry new car you bought?
I sure do, Wendy. It was wonderful, and it seems that your family's been giving people that feeling for, 78 years now?
That's right, Julie. And at Linwood Honda, we love knowing that we can give our customers the experience of buying or leasing a car at the lowest price anywhere.
Not only that, but right now it's cherry picking season at Linwood Honda, and we've got the lowest prices on every one of our cherry new and used cars. So come on out, pick a cherry, and experience that Linwood Honda difference.
Okay, Julie. And remember, we're giving away a free pound of fresh cherries just for taking a test drive.
That's Linwood Honda's Cherry Celebration Days, where if you don't buy from us, it'll really be the pits. So call 775-7575.
Hey, Julie, let's do it again.
Okay, louder. 775-7575.
Linwood Honda, experience the difference.
Medical science has finally found relief for the blinding pain of migraine and tension headaches. Hollywood headache specialist Dr. Lee Kudrow discovered the solution with his pain pillow. Dr. Kudrow's pain pillow was tested and proven in medical clinics nationwide. It works in the suboccipital areas of the neck at the base of the skull. Every pain pillow comes with a space-age gel pack you can use for either cold or hot treatment. There's even a pocket for an optional vibrator accessory that comes with your pain pillow. Forget about costly pills and prescriptions and the upsets they can cause. The doctor-approved pain pillow is guaranteed to give fast, natural relief from migraine and tension headaches or your money back.
Have your charge card handy and call 1-800-655-1230 now to order your headache ice pillow. Only $49.95 plus shipping and handling. Satisfaction guaranteed. Call 1-800-655-1230. That's 1-800-655-1230.
Don't settle for one side of the story. Get balanced news talk with variety. King News Talk 1090.
142 at King 1090. I'm Rick Miller, and We're going to get right to the calls. We got some real good ones coming up here, including apparently one of our callers coming up called up Lycus yesterday and tangled with him on this very subject. Andrea DeCou, my producer, also talked to Joan Zagree, who was, I believe, a guest on Dana's show today, a psychotherapist. She said that the study that we've just discussed, cited in the Times, is flawed. They asked women if they had ever thrown an object without asking the context in which women reacted. You got the picture there? Usually the woman is in a situation where she needs to fight back in order to protect herself. But of course, these deep thinkers don't mention stuff like that. There's a new study now being conducted, by the way, that hopes to pull all of these pieces together more effectively. To the calls we go. Here is Sandy in Wallingford on King 1090.
Hi.
Yes, Sandy.
I'm the guy who called Tom
Lycus. Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you called. I didn't hear this show.
Well, it was appalling. Frankly, it was really appalling. I'm a domestic violence counselor myself.
Oh, all right.
And I know Joan Zagree, and she is quite an authority. She knows whereof she speaks.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess what was most disturbing to me, first of all, the couple who were presenting themselves as being knowledgeable about domestic violence, I felt were inundating us with half-truths and statistical manipulation, and they didn't even apparently know about a study that I suggested that they read called The Myth of Sexual Symmetry in Marital Violence, which was published in a journal called Social Problems in February of 1992, and it pretty well dismantles the case they were trying to build by analyzing the research material that they were using to build that case, and pointing out how terribly flawed most of it is, in the way that Joan apparently was talking about too.
Do you know these people, Judith? I've
never heard of them before.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah, I've never heard of them before. I'm trying to get a copy of that article they wrote, but unfortunately...
Oh, well, I'll get you a copy.
Oh, great. I'd love to get it because the local newsstands get the LA Times 4 days later.
Before you hang... Yeah, I know. Or a couple days later anyway. It ruins everything because it's not timely. Be sure and give... I'll put you in the cooler at the end, and be sure and give your address, and
Okay.
I'll send this out to you right away.
I want to respond to that article. One of the committees I'm involved in is... a public education work group for domestic violence. We're going to be actually starting a 2-year-long public education campaign in the near future, and it's made up of a really fine group of local folks who are involved in this problem from every conceivable aspect, including that of just being concerned citizens.
From your perspective, have you given some thought to this O.J. Simpson situation? Do you feel in your mind that you know what happened?
Well, there's part of me that always wants to say, everybody's innocent until proven guilty.
Sure.
Having said that, I have to say that nothing that occurred, once the initial surprise of, somebody that famous and that much in the public eye possibly being involved in such brutality registered, nothing that occurred to me, nothing that happened struck me as anything other than behavior that's consistent with many people who do batter their wives.
Did you hear this tape, this 911 tape?
Yes, I did.
Did any warning? I was astonished by that, and as I listened, I said, well, how could anybody fail to act on that? But that's my layman's perspective. What's yours?
Well, that's my perspective too, but it's a problem. This is an area that is rife with so much mythology and denial, which I was distressed to hearing these folks on Tom Lycus and Tom Lycus himself promoting this.
You mean Lycus was on their side?
Basically, yeah. He was arguing the case that, all ideas need to get a fair hearing.
Okay.
All right. He seemed to construe my protesting that they were dispelling inaccurate information as somehow I was challenging their right to having their opinions, and that's not what I was saying. The point I was trying to make was, it's irresponsible journalism to take a subject like this, which has potential. If you don't present it in a carefully, well-thought-out way, it has the potential to actually make the problem worse. And just prior to my call, a young woman had called and said, you know what people are going to do with your article? People who are violent are going to take this and say, see, I'm not the problem, she is. And that's precisely what happens. That's exactly what happens. There was, it's ironic that Friday morning, I was actually sitting in a courtroom in King County, watching and listening as petitioners for protection orders were in front of a commissioner. That is, women asking for protection orders, and in some cases, men there to contest that a protection order was needed. And the thing that that was my first time in court listening to this sort of thing. The thing that struck me was I could have written the lines for every man who got up and spoke. I had heard everything that was said so many times. There's such stereotypical responses.
Do you think that, from your perspective, if a man is a wife beater, if he is given to that sort of thing, is he curable, or is it like apparently like child molestation? If you are, you are.
Well, there's a whole range of folks who engage in violent behavior of this type, and there are some very scary people out there who are probably not treatable at all, and who, for the protection of their victims and for the rest of us, need to be locked up, period.
Yeah.
Those would be people who are extremely sociopathic and have not even a shred of a conscience to appeal to.
Is O.J. Simpson in that category?
I can't say without knowing a whole lot more. My guess is that, in many ways, I don't think O.J. Simpson's case is all that extraordinary, except for the level of the brutality. I don't think that it's. I mean, those of us in the field have heard these sort of stories, and many times they are as brutal. They just aren't as well publicized.
Yeah.
Because the person involved isn't as well known. But it's in many ways a seemingly textbook sort of case. And I didn't for a minute think that he was going to blow his brains out. To me, when I heard the contents of the note he left behind, I know it struck most folks as a genuine suicide note, but it struck me as typical manipulative behavior of somebody who desperately wants to believe that somebody else is the problem and not him.
Real? Just simply the note as a manipulation?
Yeah.
Wow.
He even the lines in there about sometimes I felt like a battered husband, a battered boyfriend.
What did that? I've never. What is that supposed to mean? What did he mean by that?
What that's supposed to do is what violent men typically do. It's supposed to throw the blame onto the victim. There is no doubt in my mind that O.J. Simpson never felt his life in jeopardy from the actions of Nicole Simpson.
Do you imagine that as more research is done, that we are going to find out that O.J. Simpson has a long history of beating up women?
It's certainly possible. Well,
I know it's possible, but do you think that's what's going to... Okay, you don't have a...
Generally, this sort of stuff does develop over a period of time, and frequently it starts out at a lower level. And what people often don't realize is that even just, first of all, there's various categories of abuse that can occur in domestic violence. It can be physical or it can be emotional.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into that now. Right. It'll be the people's eyes, kind of roll into their heads.
Violence tends to be a very insidious force, and when somebody realizes that he's getting away with verbal abuse, they often ratchet it up to more direct forms of abuse.
Amazing. Sandy, I'm delighted you called. Please stay there, and Andrew will get your address. I'll send you this article. I've written a few things on it, but I'll send it to you so you'll have a point of reference. It's 151 at King 1090.
Once again, this is the guy who's gotta know, and today we are at a mini-mart in Yakima, where people are lining up to buy lotto tickets. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, I'm here for you.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you win that big jackpot?
Work tirelessly to preserve and protect our national symbol, the bald eagle.
That is very noble of you.
Yes, thank you. I want to create miniature toupees for the male of the species.
Toupees?
Yes, thank you. See, a total hair replacement system. Actually, you see, with a full head of natural-looking hair, a.k.a. coiffage, the bald eagle will be far more attractive to potential mates.
Sure.
He'll feel more confident, more virile, thereby proliferating the breed.
Amazing.
Yeah, indeed, they are. It is. The eagles can fly in them, swim in them, love in them, just like real hair.
Well, with a lotto ticket, you are just 6 numbers away from making it happen.
Let's hope so, my fine friend, for the eagle's sake.
Lotto. Do you feel lucky? Must be 18 years of age. Odds of winning 1 in 7 million if you play. Considerably higher if you don't.
The next Lotto jackpot is worth $4 million. Feel lucky? Then buy your tickets today and see how being a millionaire can change your life.
For Arctic Spray, here's baseball great Don Sutton.
In my career, there were many accomplishments I was very proud of along the way. There were times when being an athlete meant a day-to-day battle against stiffness, soreness, and pain. And that's why I understand how it feels when you come up with sore muscles. And that's why I want you to try Arctic Spray, a remarkable new non-aerosol product designed to relieve pain on contact. There's no rubbing, no grease, and no mess. And it goes to work immediately. Spray the pain away with Arctic Spray.
Look for Arctic Spray at your nearest Fred Meyer, where you'll find the Northwest's largest selection of health and beauty products for your family. The products you need, use, and buy most often. And since they're at lower prices every day, you can buy them when you need them without having to wait for a sale. Low prices on everything from prescriptions to over-the-counter remedies to cosmetics. It's a time-saving, money-saving way to shop. So remember, the day it runs out, you'll find it at Fred Meyer.
My 3-year-old, Claire, loves her new plastic scissors. So this week, when I brought in the mail, she was happy to see that Safeway's new coupon book arrived. For me, it's full of great coupons and great values. For Claire, it's full of pictures and coupons that are just waiting to be scissored. Peanut butter, cereals, cat litter, you name it, she'll clip it. I like the Safeway coupon books. They keep Claire busy. They save me money. And the proud look on Claire's face when she gives the cashier her coupons is worth almost as much as the money I save.
Take advantage of your new Safeway coupon book that just came in the mail. Save on Kraft macaroni and cheese dinners, Top ramen noodles, Z paper towels, Copper Tone sun care products, and more. Value's good until August 2nd. Remember, nobody does it better than Safeway.
Hi, this is Tom Leykis. Join me for the next Tom Leykis show as we meet Andy Archambault. He's the man who was recently arrested in Michigan for stalking a woman by computer. The state of Michigan claims that the email messages he was sending were violating the woman's freedom and privacy. Archambault says he has a side of the story that he wants to share with you. Do you think it's possible to stalk someone by computer? We'll talk about it. The Tom Leykis Show, late afternoon, starting at 3 on King Newstalk 1090. 155 at King 1090. I would like you also to give this a little thought. I'm going to flesh it out a little bit in the next hour. Do you think that nagging ever does any good? Are you a nagger? Let me tell you something. The two kinds of people that I will avoid assiduously are naggers and whiners. And I'm not sure which one ranks higher in my hall of infamy, but in the next hour we will have the chance to make a quick to have a quick consideration of a man who has nagged high school students into something very, very special, and he has done it by nagging them. If you can think of anything good to say about nagging, you might sharpen up your dialing finger, or if you have been the victim of a nag and would like to tell us how you feel about it. Let me tell you something. I could not bear to be around a nagger for any amount of time. I would feel all the air being sucked out of me like a balloon gone berserk with a big fat hole in it. That's in the next hour, as well as a continuation of this blarney, this nonsense, this bills, this balderdash put out by this PhD and this clinical psychologist holding that statistics prove that domestic violence is a two-way street, that men and women suffer equally from it. You know, the worst part of that whole thing, as the previous caller said, anyone reading this drivel, they will decide that it's okay for them to beat up women because, after all, women beat up men. What could be more disastrous than that if you're trying to stop domestic violence, which is a one-way street 99.9% of the time? How could anyone dispute that learned fact laid out on the Rick Miller Show. Henrietta in North Seattle, you're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, Henrietta.
I'm a first-time caller.
Bless your heart.
And I've been listening and following your show on the O.J. Simpson topic.
Uh-huh.
And I have a couple comments points that I like to bring up about it.
Good.
And one being, I heard one of your callers call in, or several people have called in about the scratches on his hands.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard for me to figure out how, if the person that did it, and I'm not saying that he did, would get scratches on his hand if he's wearing a glove.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly,
good point.
I've been hearing a lot of sympathy for his two children by Nicole Simpson.
Yeah.
But he also has two other children by his first wife, and it seems to me when they speak of sympathy for the children, they should also include his other two children by his first wife, because they're grieving also at what is happening to their father.
Yeah.
And lastly, I heard also a comment that I don't remember one of the shows that I heard it on, that they had asked Nicole's father about how he felt, and his feelings right now is that he doesn't believe that O.J. has done that, and it strikes me kind of strange that if you, being a parent, that you lose your kid in such a brutal killing, that you wouldn't have such nice things to say about the person that is.
This is amazing. Where did you hear that last part?
I don't remember.
Okay, it doesn't matter, but do you know what Nicole's father does?
No, not exactly.
Well, I learned this yesterday.
Well, wait a minute. One thing I did hear that there was some kind of connection that he had with O.J. on the Hertz deal or
That's
something.
exactly right.
Like
he owns, Nicole Simpson's father, I understand, to this day, owns the Hertz dealership in, I think, in Arizona or somewhere in California, owns the Hertz dealership that O.J. Simpson, manages it, that O.J. Simpson owned or owns.
Yeah, but
he works for O.J. Simpson.
I can see that, but still, I mean, there comes a point in time period where you part water when you're...
Henrietta, we're right at the end, dear. Thanks for your first-time call. Time for the news, 2 o'clock.
Seattle's talk radio station, King News Talk 1090, KING, Seattle.
Now this update from ABC News. I'm Linda Moore. Criminals bent on robbing cab drivers in Miami may think twice now that it's legal for Miami cab drivers to carry guns for protection. Reaction from New York City cabbies.
We need guns to protect ourselves.
Of course, we love to carry guns. Why not? You find so many bad people, if you carry a gun, you're going to be shooting everybody every day.
The cab drivers are crazy. For cab drivers having guns, I think cab drivers be shooting one another.
In Spokane, Washington today, a memorial service was held for 4 of the people killed Monday when a former airman went on a shooting spree at the Fairchild Air Force Base Hospital. Chaplain David Knight asked mourners to put aside their hate for the gunman who was killed by a military police officer.
There will be many who seek to vilify Dean Melberg. But Dean Melberg was not a monster, but a monstrous thing has been done.
A 6th victim was added to the list of dead when a wounded woman's fetus died. The woman remains hospitalized. Nearly 24 people were injured in the rampage. Now this.
Hi, Vanna White here for Spring Air Mattresses. Some people might think I'm spoiled. I am. I sleep on a Spring Air back supporter mattress. There are 4 reasons why back supporter is my choice and should be yours too. They're all in my mattress buying video that's yours free when you call 1-800-94-VANNA. Find out why you should be sleeping on a Spring Air back supporter too. Call for my free mattress buying video today. Call 1-800-94-VANNA.
America, get rockin' and cooking with Kraft, Oscar Mayer, and Lewis Rich. Wolfman Jack here telling you to get rockin' with up to $10 in savings at Musicland and Sam Goody. Save up to $10 on CDs and cassettes when you get cooking with your family's favorite foods. Buy any 3 Kraft cheese products 8 ounces or larger, Oscar Mayer bologna or Lewis Rich cold cuts, and you can save up to $10 on the music you want to hear. Get details in the mail-in form at the Rockin' and Cookin' display in participating grocery stores now.
King News Talk 1090 Midday News Update.
2:02 King News Talk 1090. Good afternoon. I'm Tony Miner in the King 1090 News Center. You won't be getting sticker shock from your electric bill thanks to President Clinton. He says Uncle Sam will cover losses suffered by the BPA for its efforts to save salmon. and Senator Patty Murray likes the idea.
This assures that our rates won't go up in October, but it also assures us that the White House and the administration understand the impact of the salmon crisis in the Pacific Northwest.
Saving salmon cost $11 million last month alone. Seattle police have started handing out tickets to panhandlers in downtown areas where sitting on the sidewalk has been banned. One man who refused to leave his corner at 5th and Pike has received 3 $50 tickets. The city law has been upheld by a federal judge, but the ACLU is appealing that. And the Skagit County Sheriff's Office has called off the search for a child who reportedly disappeared in the Skagit River at Mount Vernon. No body has been found and no child has been reported missing. People at Edgewater Park reported seeing a boy yesterday being swept downstream. 203 King News Talk 1090. A look at traffic and weather together coming up next.
There's a Seattle that even the locals haven't seen. A Seattle so beautiful, so breathtaking, so magnificent that even those who are aware of it can't get enough. It's the real reason Seattle has more boats per capita than anywhere in the United States. It's Seattle. From the water. Do you realize how many famous people live along the shores of Lake Washington? Do you know how large Seattle's port is? Or how many salmon run through its locks? You would if you cruised with Seattle Harbor Tours. Call Seattle Harbor Tours on Pier 55 at 623-4252. Seattle Harbor Tours offers 3 absolutely stunning views of the Seattle Harbor. Another is of the locks, and the third is of Lake Washington. These affordable tours are fully narrated in climate-controlled vessels with full-service bars. Now that summer's upon us, take this opportunity to experience Seattle's most compelling beauty. View Seattle from the water. Call Seattle Harbor Tours today, 623-4252.
Controversial, opinionated, and unforgettable. Middays with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
.205, my friends. 205 at King 1090. You have shot 2 hours right smack dab down the drain. You might as well shoot the third one with me as well and make it a complete loss, or should I say blowout, for the day. We have so many things having to do with O.J. Simpson that we continue to talk about. It's really quite amazing, since I had already determined today I wasn't going to talk about it at all. It's a story that does not end. It's an amazing story. Someday soon, somebody's going to write a very enlightened column or maybe book or short piece about the psychology of all this. How has this story... to say that the O.J. Simpson story has legs is a bit of an understatement. This story never runs out of legs. It just keeps going and going. So that's my way of sort of halfway apologizing, but it's my way of halfway apologizing for still being interested and stimulated in the story every day, despite my best intentions to lay off. But there are a couple of things I want to... And that, of course... So the point being that anything that you want to talk about in that regard is still okay with me. But I am going to mention a couple of other things that I'd like to get something going on. One has to do with nagging. We've never talked about nagging on the show. I abhor at nagging. If you ever want to really cut me to the quick, hurt my feelings, make me feel like 2 cents, call me a nag. Call me a whiner or a nag, and I will feel terrible, number one, and number two, I will search my psyche to see whether it's true, and if it is, I will change immediately. I mean, that's how much I can't stand the idea of whining and nagging. Having said that, let me introduce Dr. J. Dr. J of Poughkeepsie, New York. What a man. Dr. Paul Jankowitz, a guidance counselor. You remember we've had some bad things to say about counselors lately in high school? Well, here's one we don't say anything bad about. He has nagged, as a guidance counselor, the students affectionately say that he has nagged them into going to college. Well, you say, okay, so he nagged a couple of kids into going to college. He didn't nag a couple of kids into going to college. He nagged the entire class into going to college. It's quite remarkable. It's never happened before. Every single senior in the class was successfully nagged into applying for college and being accepted. Isn't that something? And he did it by nagging. You know what? Here's what the kids say. Dr. J followed me around for weeks, telling me to get my college applications in. He did it for weeks. He kept pushing until I realized I should do it. Not for him, for me. That's what one student said. Dr. J is a bearded poet, an ego booster, guidance counselor, and guiding star. What a compliment that would be. Wouldn't you like to be an adult going through life being known as an ego booster, especially where kids are concerned? Oh yeah, there's so-and-so, the ego booster for kids. What could be a finer compliment and a higher calling than that? To be an ego booster for kids? Oh, anyway, that's what he is, and he has succeeded amazingly. Thanks to the prodding and encouragement of this man, all 160 members of Poughkeepsie High School's class of 94 have applied and been accepted. Now, you're thinking, okay, isn't that nice? It's in Scarsdale. It's in Bellevue. It's in Woodinville. It's where all the rich cats hang out. Wait a second. That isn't where it is at all. Poughkeepsie's high school is in an inner city. It's an inner city school with an enrollment that is 70% minority and mostly poor, and where very few families have a college tradition. Talking about this neighborhood, Dr. J says it's a wonder that these kids survive at all. It's our job to help them build strength from within. It's like the fire that strengthens the steel. What a man. And then talking about this particular class that he's now sending all of which 160 members, the entire class is going to college. He says, this class drove me crazy for 3 years. They're the ones who gave me this white hair. Some of them were so smug, but they finally got the message last year, and this year they just took off. Seeing their parents falter, continues the story here, seeing their parents falter in seemingly solid jobs has made the students at Poughkeepsie High School all the more receptive to Dr. J's message. To succeed in life, one must never stop learning, growing, and adapting to change. And finally, there's this. All of you people out there on the right-hand side of the universe, please note this next part. All of you people who are hollering for school vouchers, all of you people who are saying, well, why do I have to take that? I'm never going to use that in real life. And all you people that say real brain challenge, things like that, please listen to this next sentence from Dr. J. About Dr. J. Dr. J makes us take courses in everything so we can get exposed to things we might not have considered. Oh, that should be engraved. That's the standard response for all people who say, well, I'm just going to be a ditch digger, so why do I have to take English or math or anything else? I'm just going to be a pro football player or whatever. You do that because when you're exposed to many, many things, you can suddenly think of things that you otherwise would not have considered. It can save your life intellectually, liberally, literally, morally, and figuratively. That's why. Dr. J. Okay, pretty inspiring, I would say, but he did it by nagging. I mean, he stayed on these kids constantly, which is really something that's what every good parent does, I'm sure, to turn out good issue. You just don't get to say it once. You have to say it again and again and again and again and again every day of the week, 10 times a day for months and years and centuries, or decades perhaps. The point is this, he nagged. It seems to say something good about nagging. He must have had a great personality. He must have a great personality to get away with it. My question to you, if you have an opinion on this, God love you, I'd love to hear it. But what do you think about nagging? I mean, I loathe the concept. I have a real problem with nagging and nags. I don't want to be anywhere near them. I think they suck the blood right out of you in the air, right out of you. It's poof, you're gone. I will avoid a nag at all costs. But how about you? Have you ever been involved with a nag? Maybe you're involved with a nag now. How is it? How's it going? How do you accommodate it? Can nags be changed? And also, maybe you're a nag yourself. And if you are, do you know you are? And if you are you proud of that? Would you like to change, or do you feel it's a part of your deal? Nagging is on my mind. 213 at King... Oh, not well, it is 213 at King 1090, but what I was trying to do there is give the phone numbers. I'm mathematically challenged. 441-5464. See, they're all numbers, and whenever I see numbers, I get nervous. That's in Seattle. 1-800-833-5464. That's the number throughout the state. Cellular One callers, free call at star 1090. You want to fax us? Okay, 448-1840. As we go to Paul in Kirkland on King 1090.
Hello, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Well, Rick, an hour ago when I called...
Yeah. Sub shop sandwiches for you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think this is worth 2 sub sandwiches, Rick.
Okay.
And being that you're such a stickler for mathematical accuracy...
Yes.
In general...
Yes.
There's a couple things I wanted to mention to you. First thing, some time ago when I was in a car, you were talking about the probability of O.J.'s guilt. And you were saying that his likelihood of being innocent was .000000000, so on and so forth, 1.
Yeah.
And you said, therefore, he's 99.0000000, so on, guilty, right?
Yeah.
Better check your math on that.
Oh, really?
That should be 99.9999999.
Oh, God, you're right.
2 sub sandwiches, Rick.
Absolutely. Wait a minute. Did you hang on just for that?
No, there's more.
Oh, okay.
As I was...
Well, wait a minute then. Okay, if there's more, we'll get more. We'll take care of the sub shop sandwiches right now. We'll put you in the cooler, Paul. And I know you've waited a while, but just wait a little bit longer and we'll get the rest of what you have to say. It's 2:15 at King 1090.
It's sweet. It's funny. It's the ultimate date movie.
A must-see on cable TV.
Love is in the air. Make that the airwaves as a radio call-in show turns into romantic...
Yes. A few things were mentioned that perked my interest, and these are 2. One is somewhat anecdotal. And a woman mentioned, well, if he was wearing gloves, he being O.J., how would he have cut his hand?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you remember, one of the gloves was left at the scene, so obviously it fell off.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, ipso facto, possible explanation.
Okay.
The other one, now this is really substantive, and this is why I persevered and held on, and that was when you were mentioning this, ridiculing the psychologist or whoever it was on Tom Leykis' show.
Yeah.
And I heard part of that show, and I think you maybe bordered on a little bit of superciliousness.
Oh.
Which is so rare for you, Rick. But I would
anything but that.
I would like to make this observation.
Yeah.
And I as part of my comment, I was at Mike Siegel was gathering petitions last Saturday, and one of them was there was a discussion about domestic violence, and I mentioned that it is very possible, and I can tell you this from personal experience, it is possible for a 110-pound woman to inflict some severe damage in a fairly large guy. And it can and does happen. Now, I have no idea what the frequency is, but when I mentioned this, people started giggling like it was silly. Now, there was a show on not too long ago that I happened to see where a 100-and-X-pound, very petite woman killed her 220-pound husband by coming up behind him and hitting him on the head with a hammer and left him in a chair covered with cushions and is now a fugitive. So it does happen.
I'm not going to deny to you that a woman at times can take arms against her sea of troubles.
And even barehanded, I might say. If you take a 110-pound person and they are angry and hit someone with a closed fist in their nose, for example, or on a lip,
yeah,
they can cause damage.
Well, I'm not denying any of that, but if that 110-pounder you're talking about, unless she's a bantamweight champion of the world or some real strong weightlifter and skilled in street fighting, as soon as the man gets over being stunned, he can take her to the cleaners. Cannon does.
But the fact of the matter is, what about a passive man who won't do anything?
Well,
and this does happen, believe me.
Okay, I'll stay with that for a minute. See, I'm so inclined to dismiss those people as wimps.
Yeah, see, well, that's exactly the reaction most people have. In fact, the same reaction, at one time, this is a little bit off purpose here, but I was stalked by a woman for about 6-8 months one time. And when I would mention that to people, this is a number of years ago, people laughed like it was funny. It wasn't funny. And it happens. You know, it looked
okay,
like I was some kind of wimp, or she just liked you. It was maybe not scary, but it was extremely annoying.
Okay, look, you get belted by, what it boils down to is a man gets belted by a woman.
Yeah.
And that does happen. I'm not going to deny that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. So the guy gets belted by a woman.
Yeah.
So what?
Well, so what?
The woman.
What do you mean, so what?
The woman does not have the ability to
kill.
No,
yes,
that isn't what I was going to say, though. Unfortunately for you, Paul, that isn't what I was going to say. I was trying to find my word. The woman does not have the... I've got it now. The woman does not have the ability to conduct a reign of physical terror like a man does.
That's true.
Because of the pure strength involved. Well, that's the whole point, though.
No, but that isn't the point. I tend to not believe that, frankly. But they claim that it happened about the same frequency as men batter women. There's no question that a 200-pound man can cause a lot more damage on a 110-pound woman than a woman can cause on a man, barring use of a weapon.
Of course. So what's the point?
Well, but the point is there can still be some battering. I mean, a woman can hit a guy, throw things, hit him with a pan, hit him over the head with a bottle, cause a lot of damage.
So what?
And
she can only do that. All right, here, this will stop you.
And kill him.
I'll put a stop to you right now. She can do all of that, but she can only do it once, because because the man, when he recovers, when he comes to or whatever, is going to, if he chooses to, is going to extract a severe penalty by.
But what about the guy who doesn't extract a severe penalty? What do you mean it can only happen once?
Well,
I can tell you from personal experience it can happen a lot more than once.
You're telling me that a woman, on a general basis, beats up a guy?
I won't necessarily classify it as beating up, but can inflict battering damage on a man.
Okay.
Repeatedly.
Okay. I can't. I'm sorry. I cannot fathom that.
I know. A lot of people can't, but believe me, it does happen.
Why would a guy... Well, I understand why a man... Wait, let me ask the question. I understand why a man would take a blow from a woman who was mad at him because he's chivalrous or whatever, and he's not going to belt her, and so he would take the punch. Frankly, I've done that myself. Mm-hmm. But what I can't understand is how any man would allow a woman to systematically beat the hell out of him on a regular basis or hit him at all on a regular basis. I don't get that at all.
Well, see, now, what you're assuming is that this is some prolonged beating. It doesn't have to be a prolonged beating.
What does it have to be?
Well, if you take for an example, getting back to taking some type of a weapon or something that acts as a weapon,
yes,
pan, a knife, or something, and coming up behind the guy and hitting him, for instance.
Yes.
Okay, his option is he can either call the police and say, my wife beat me up, which he'd get the same kind of reaction that you're giving. Oh, yes, sure.
Okay, that's one. What's the other one?
Okay, or divorce her. Maybe he doesn't want to do that.
Okay, no, there's a few other possibilities.
Well,
he could call the cops. He could divorce her. But let me tell you what I'd do. What I would do, at least I hope I would have my wits about me to do, is I would get, unless I wanted to actually have a fist fight with her on the spot, which I would hope against all hope that I would not. Well, let me finish. I would move out. I would leave. I would go to a hotel. There'd be a cooling off period of 3 days or whatever. Then we'd go back and talk about it. If we couldn't, we'd get counseling help. We'd do that. We'd do those sort of things. But I would not put myself back in the same unremedied situation that precipitated getting hit over the head with a pan in the first place.
Okay, so ultimately the two options are, or the ultimate option is to get a divorce if she refuses to...
You left out a few steps along the way. What are you, a Rush Limbaugh listener? It's not that simple, mister. There's a little complicated stuff here. I didn't say either or. There was all kinds of levels along the way that intelligent people would subscribe to.
Okay, well, you're very intelligent. what I'm saying is, if
you said that like Pat Robertson, you said that real giddy like Pat Robertson. Well, you're very intelligent.
Well, you are, of course. But what I'm saying, Rick, is that ultimately, if the person does not change their behavior, then the obvious ultimate step is divorce.
Yes.
And what happens is, just like the way you're acting now, most people, including the police, including like that counselor that called earlier, domestic counselor, are going to tend to dismiss that as being patently ridiculous.
Exactly.
Okay, and I can tell you it is not patently ridiculous.
Well, I think that maybe it's not patently ridiculous to the husband that's getting battered and not standing up for himself.
Well,
but I'm sure
that's not the issue. Standing up for oneself is not the issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is that this type of thing happens, and when it is one tries to take some type of step, such as go to counseling or call the police, for example, they get the kind of reaction that you're giving.
The man can put a stop to it. The woman can't.
Well,
wait a minute. That's really good, Rick. I mean, Paul, you better focus on that. The man can put a stop to this battery and abuse by physically restraining her. The woman can't. Nicole Simpson could not restrain O.J. Simpson, but O.J. Simpson could definitely have restrained Nicole Simpson.
Can I just say one more thing, and then you can move on?
Yes, but I probably won't like it.
Okay. You are correct. The man can stop a prolonged incident, but he cannot stop a spontaneous, unforeseen incident such as some type of striking.
All right, you've made your point, Paul. I emphatically disagree with you. I loved your call, by the way, and other people can grab any part of that they wish. I don't like being a blockhead on any subject, and I may sound to some of you blockheaded on this. I know that Paul probably thinks I'm a blockhead. I don't think I am. I think that the key is the last thing I finally said. The man can put a stop to it. The man has the power to put a stop to it. The woman does not, and that means that's all the power. The man can remedy the situation and the woman can't. That's why there is an imbalance in this. That's why there will always be an imbalance, and that is why that anybody that argues that it's an equal deal is nuts. Dave in Elma, you're on King 1090.
Yeah, Rick, I've been holding longer than Paul, but I won't force you to give me a sub sandwich if you don't want to.
I'll do it anyway.
Okay. I wanted to comment on the statement you made about an hour and a half ago concerning why O.J. was not scratched or beaten up or had bruises, and assuming for purposes of our discussion he did do it, okay?
Yeah.
I can understand very well why that probably didn't happen. First, I don't know whether her male escort was attacked from behind initially or whatever. I think you alluded to that fact that he was. Is that the case?
I read that, yeah. Is it true? I don't know. I
don't know. He may well have been stunned with the pommel of the knife. It was a large knife, I guess, or he may have been sliced in the carotid artery or whatever. But even without that consideration, and I wouldn't change my comments to follow, if they had been come from the front, if they had seen him coming, they would have still been at an enormous disadvantage, and he could have sliced up 3 or 4 people probably without even being touched. A lot of it has to do with psychological aspect. In our society, which is more of a gun culture than a knife culture, most people, I think, if you talk to them, would rather face a gun than a knife. It's a very scary prospect, even a kitchen knife. And so beyond fight or flight, there's also a third option, which is to go into a catatonic trance, basically, where you make no motion whatsoever because you can't believe this is happening to you, even if you haven't been attacked. And so you're going to stand there and freeze, and most of us have never given any thought to our death. And when you're confronted with someone has a knife and you realize they're going to try to kill you, that's a very heavy-duty thing to deal with, and most people, a lot of them simply shut down. And so it could be very possible that he could simply, and I don't think he was a skilled knife artist, however, he was obviously in a frenzy when he did it, and that makes up for a lot of it. You can be very unskilled with a knife and kill people. And so with the first time that they got a blow that would be very a shock-oriented blow, or where a major artery was severed or something like this, that would put them at an enormous disadvantage. And if they didn't automatically and immediately close and try to attack him with the same amount of fury, they'd have no chance whatsoever. And so I could see where he might not have even been touched by them, and he proceeded to slash and hack away at them, and that, to me, makes a lot of sense if he did do it.
Give me a fast guess. How long do you think you sound like you know what you're talking about. How long do you think the whole attack lasted?
Well, I would guess probably under a minute. It wouldn't take very long. If you look at Larry...
1 minute to do the whole thing.
Yeah, if you look at Larry Sturholm, who was stabbed several dozen times, I know you're aware of that case. He was the announcer. Most of his wounds, in my understanding, were defensive in nature. He was probably trying to protect his face and his upper torso, and I doubt that until near the end, when he realized he was going to die, that he even made an attempt to close with and physically grapple with the attacker. And most people would attempt to grab the knife rather than to get the knife to the position where it couldn't do them severe damage and then go after the vulnerable parts of the attacker, such as his eyes, throat, or testicles. And so I would guess that both of these people, and usually an attacker going after a couple, would try to take out the male first because he'd be perceived as the greatest threat. And she might have been too stunned to even move. So I can understand how that could have happened, and as horrific as it sounds, that's the way people tend to react.
Dave, magnificent. Thank you very much. Stand by for Sub Shop sandwiches.
All right, thank you.
What grand information. 2:31 at King 1090.
King News Talk 1090 Midday News Update.
2:31, King News Talk 1090. Good afternoon. I'm Tony Miner in the King 1090 News Center. A Los Angeles grand jury is considering the O.J. Simpson case. They heard testimony today, and they'll meet again tomorrow. Simpson says he did not kill his ex-wife, Nicole Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman. The Ohio kid who had his bare butt flogged with a rattan cane in Singapore is back home now, and today his father said his son wants to clear his name.
What he wants to do is talk. Now, we're going to have to find a forum, and really the first forum that I would like him to go through is the U.S. Senate.
But he's not talking anytime soon. George Fay says his son will talk about the flogging eventually. What do you fear the most? A new survey says Americans' top fear is crime, followed by health care costs and then drug abuse. Last night, Ken Griffey Jr. belted his 31st homer of the season, breaking Babe Ruth's record for the most home runs by the end of June. But a baseball strike could wipe out his pursuit of Roger Maris' record for most home runs in a season. Or would it? Here's King 1090's Dory Monson.
A baseball strike now looks inevitable this season, with Labor Day a likely strike date for the players. But Griffey is on such a torrid home run pace, at his current rate, he would belt his 61st home run in the Mariners' 137th game. That would be Labor Day weekend. So it would be possible for Griffey to tie Maris's record, even if a strike wipes out the last month of the season. Dory Monson, King News Talk 1090.
2:33, King News Talk 1090. A look at traffic and weather together coming up next.
Now we're going to play Find the Word on the Label. Today we have a collection of lawn and garden care products, and the word we're looking for is safe. So let's begin. Nope, not here. Not here, not yet. I'm still looking. Loving that music, though, aren't you?
Well, the word safe is nowhere to be found. You see, the federal government prohibits companies from saying that lawn and garden pesticides are safe, even if they're registered with the EPA. And that makes you wonder just exactly how a pesticide might affect those of us who aren't lawn and garden pests. But there is an alternative: gardening without toxic chemicals. It's simple, it's effective, and above all, it's safe. And that's something we can say without reservation. If you'd like to know more or receive a free pamphlet, call the Health Department Hazards Line, 296-4692. A message from Metro and the City of Bellevue as part of your local hazardous waste management program.
King 1090 News is brought to you by Metro Water Quality. Clean water, a sound investment. 2:34, a look at the all-day traffic watch now with Janet Ryan.
There's a stalled semi reported in the roadway northbound 5 approaching the Duwamish curves in the right lane. That, of course, would be down in the South Center area. Also, eastbound 520 Marymore Park, lumber reported in the right lane. Eastbound 520 still slow right around Montlake on out to the water as well. A little slow southbound 5 through the U District down to the Ship Canal Bridge. King 1090 weather, mostly cloudy with a chance of showers tonight, looking for a low near 50. It's 2:34, and that's traffic and weather together on King News Talk 1090.
And we have cloudy skies right now, 64 degrees in downtown Seattle. Coming up at 3 o'clock, remembering the victims of the mass shooting at Fairchild Air Force Base. I'm Tony Miner, King News Talk 1090.
Outspoken, outrageous, out loud. Spend more of your midday with Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
2:35 at King 1090. I'm Rick Miller. I want
want to say one quick thing. A couple of references have been made by some of the callers about the long time waiting to get on, and that is not something that that is not something I like to do. When it happens, it happens, but I don't. The only reason I'm making a reference to it now is I don't want you to get the idea that to call the show is to make a long commitment in time before you're going to get on, because the intention is, of course, to go through calls, well, not as quickly as you can, because that isn't the point at all. The point is to take exactly as long on a call as needed and not one split second longer. That's one of my tasks. That's one of my challenges. That's one of my decision-making things that I have to do on a regular basis. And so sometimes, you get interesting callers who are bringing out more and more things. And anyway, I want you to call. I want new callers to call. And by all means, I don't want you to be thinking it's going to be a lifelong commitment, because that is not the intention. And as a matter of fact, somebody just dropped off at 441-5464. And as a matter of fact, it was going to be the very next caller. What a shame, Betty. Betty waited a long time, and she's going to be the next caller. Boy. Todd in Magnolia, you're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, sir, Todd.
I'm a first-time caller.
Thank you.
I just tuned in just recently, and I heard your comments to a caller about the man being able to physically restrain the woman.
Yeah.
And I just had to call when I heard that, because I was beaten for fairly regularly for a couple months, I'd say. And finally, when I decided I'd had enough and I actually chose to restrain the person beating me, I actually left bruises doing it, and when the cops showed up, they took me to jail as a result. So I don't really know if it's quite as much of an option as...
You telling me the whole story?
Oh, well, I'm sure there are plenty of details, but that's...
No, I mean, as far as the bruises, when they... What was the reason given for the cops? Are you saying the cops cuffed you and took you in?
That's right.
Why?
Because I was a lot bigger than she was. And
what was the charge?
Domestic violence.
That's a formal charge, domestic violence?
Yes.
Okay, did she sign a complaint?
No.
Okay, so nothing happened about it?
That's right.
Are you still married to her?
No, we weren't married. We were just living together.
Are you still?
No, I got out of that.
Okay, domestic violence, I understand that was the charge. There must have been some details.
Well, she had bruises on her arm from where I actually...
What did they surmise that the bruises came from?
From me grabbing her.
That's it?
Yeah.
There was no contention that you beat the living hell out of her?
Absolutely not.
That you smacked her?
I never did.
That she had bruises on her body and face other than the obvious marks from being grasped by the shoulder?
None whatsoever. Absolutely not.
How did she go about... Did you say she beat you or pummeled you on a regular basis?
Yeah.
How'd she do that? Tell me how that worked.
Well,
What did she do?
She'd strike me. She'd throw things at me.
Strike you with an open hand or a closed hand?
Both.
And did she land punches?
Yes.
What did you do?
I ended up cowering, I guess, and finally when I'd had enough, then
How long did these attacks last? When I'm not talking the duration, I mean just the length of time per attack. Are we talking a couple of seconds or a minute or what?
It varied from 5 minutes to 20 minutes.
She'd smack you around for 20 minutes?
Well, I'd keep her from hitting me as much as possible.
For 20 minutes?
That might be long, but yeah.
Okay. What was the flashpoint? What caused these things?
Her drinking.
Oh, she was drunk?
Yeah.
Or drinking?
Yeah.
Every time?
98% of the time, I'd say.
How big was she? No kidding. Well, why the $64,000 question, then, I guess, is simply this. You know what the question is already?
I have a feeling.
Okay, what's the question?
Why'd I put up with it so long?
Yeah, right.
Well, I got into a living situation that I couldn't immediately get out of. I didn't have options to leave.
Good answer. I understand that. So you felt you were stuck financially?
Yeah, definitely.
Economically?
Definitely.
You know, let's reflect on that for a minute, my friends. That's the situation you ask all the time. Why does a woman put up with it? Well, we just got the answer from Todd. People put up with it because economically they've got no other outs. Great point. Could you have overpowered her anytime you wanted?
Absolutely.
I got 70 pounds.
Okay, then you. Well, all right. Well, then you know what, Todd?
Yeah.
You don't really fit. You're not being battered then.
Well, yeah. Maybe not in the sense that some people are.
You weren't. Did you ever feel helpless?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Well, not physically helpless, but I didn't consider violence as an option.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, and of course you could certainly feel economically helpless. Believe me, I've been there.
Yeah.
But as far as physically helpless, you see, I think the component here that cannot be overlooked and must not be overlooked is the thing that makes the difference between a man and a woman. A man, even if he's getting smacked around a little bit by some little Spitfire, has the physical ability to stop it, to put a stop to it, if he decides that's what he wants to do. But a woman has no such power.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, well, there you go. Todd, what a great call. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very, very much. 241, King 1090.
Rick Miller on King News Talk 1090.
Outside, snow was falling in a raging blizzard. But inside the offices of Sarah Technologies, something altogether different was falling.
The Xerox copier had taken the brunt of the collapsing ceiling. I think we had about 4 inches of water standing on the floor. Both the ceiling and the blown insulation were laying all over the Xerox machine. Everything was a mess.
Mike Hessling had a problem. He needed help.
We called Jeff at Xerox. If we have a problem, we have always called Jeff. He sent somebody out actually the very next day with a loaner copier. Well, our expectations were that Xerox would do everything they could to keep our business running.
A reasonable expectation.
What I didn't expect was that after the mess was all cleaned up, we plugged the Xerox copier back in. It made copies just as well as the day before the flood.
Want copiers you can rely on? Get the ones from the people you can rely on. Xerox, the document company.
We went to Xerox for service, and they made it happen.
For the local sales agent or sales office nearest you, call 1-800-ASK-XEROX.
Putting it together.
I want to tell you about what is probably the most important sales event ever staged by one furniture retailer across this nation. It's called Levitt's 4-Day Super Sale. You see, there's a story behind this sale. Levitt's has too much furniture, $200 million worth. They must either sell it now or count it as inventory. Naturally, they prefer to sell it, and they've done everything they can think of to do just that. Every piece of furniture has been price cut dramatically. Nothing has been restricted. Nothing has been held back. If you've been waiting for the right time to buy new furniture, that time is now. Hurry, this exciting super sale ends Monday. Oh, yes, you're gonna love it at Levitt's. But don't take my word for it. Come in and see for yourself.
You'll love it at Levitt's.
Levitt's Furniture in Tukwila, Linwood, and Tacoma. People are funny when it comes to jewelry. For years, I've been driving downtown where they think are the lowest prices. For years, people have been wandering into malls where they think is the best selection. Next time you find yourself treading through the tribute to linoleum that is the modern mall, take the time to cross the street to International Jewelers. International Jewelers is more than twice the selection you'll find downtown, at about half the price you'll find at the mall. For instance, diamonds. Every International Jewelers diamond is sent to an independent laboratory where they grade it, map it, appraise it, and send it back, where we promptly offer it to you at just 10% above New York wholesale prices. Oh, sure, the lab thinks we're nuts, but our customers have never complained. Here's another example, gold. International Jewelers is the only place around that sells all its gold by the gram weight. Look, you wouldn't even buy hamburger unless you knew the price per pound. If anyone tries to sell you gold without telling you the price per gram, they're probably charging too much. International Jewelers, more than twice the selection at about half the price, and we're just a walk across the street. Next to Tacoma Mall, South Center, Bellevue Square, and Alderwood Mall. International Jewelers.
Unpredictable, unconventional, unstable. Pat Cashman, weekday mornings on King News Talk 1090.
Working on my screenplay, Balzac Nags the Co-Eds. I am Rick Miller, King News Talk 1090. It's 2:44 at the radio station and elsewhere along the line. I was just asked this question by Sean Splain, who said, Rick, what's the difference between nagging and persuasion? Maybe the good doctor, Dr. J, in Poughkeepsie, who nagged all of the high school students into going to college, maybe he was merely persuading them. Oh, no, Sean. Nagging is a relentless barrage that never stops. It just keeps going and going. Yeah, Sean. It's like Yeah, it's like that, Sean.
Rick!
It goes on and on and on.
Rick!
And a persuasion, on the other hand, is merely a well-modulated insertion into a conversation at a critical moment that might serve a purpose, a preordained purpose. Not bad right off the top of my head, Rick, especially when I was under pressure from a whiner in this very studio. Gary in Bellevue, you're on King 1090.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, sir?
I really like what Todd here had to say here just a second ago. That wasn't originally what I called for, but I was arrested here last October for domestic violence, and it was verbal. And I was handcuffed behind my back. 2 policemen and the kids and everything were taken into a different room. When O.J. was arrested, he had his, handcuffs in the front, and he was standing there, talking to the press and the cameras and everybody else. What I feel, I do, and as I was telling your producer, I don't think that there's going to be a fair trial out of this, and out of O.J. And I don't blame the press for it. I blame the leaks of those people that are seeking recognition for whatever purposes from the press or whatever, the political office. I don't think that the legal defense or the DA's office ought to be holding all of these
press conferences?
Press conferences after the trial, before the trial, and everything else. There's a truth versus the rumor.
Well, wait a minute. There's all kinds of information that needs to be disseminated to the public. It's news.
It's news, but it's also a trial. It's also a trial. If I was going to trial, I wouldn't have wanted, somebody to come out with, well, this is what happened. No, this didn't happen. Yes, it should come out in a doggone trial.
Well, then you're advocating some kind of an English system like in Britain where they don't even write about it at all. You don't want that, do you?
I think in this circumstances, they probably shouldn't.
Well,
the reason I say that is so many people have got... I heard here somebody saying that somebody's mother could be on the jury because they weren't interested in football and they didn't know O.J. But they know about what's happened, about the escape last... I call it an escape. I call it a plan. I don't know what happened between Al, where he's
look,
at.
all they have to do is agree. They can know all that stuff. All they have to do is agree that they have an open mind to the evidence that's presented and will make their decision based on that. That's all they have to do.
They brought out these 911...
Well, why don't you just say to me that that's an impossible thing to ask of a juror, because that's what it is in my view, Gary. I've said that now to 2 callers waiting for somebody to say that that's an impossibility on the face of it, Rick, and no one has grabbed it. What do I have to do, answer my own questions?
But who went and brought out the 911 tapes yesterday? That was the police department, the DA, or...
The police. The police.
The police brought it out. Why was that brought out?
I'm going to answer it. The police brought it out because of the avalanche of inquiries about it.
Well, that's why I do not think, there's too many inquiries and too much said. The defense says it didn't happen, And
well, how would you... The defense certainly can't say that this didn't happen. Wait a minute. The defense can't say that this didn't happen with O.J. Simpson because it did. It's right on tape on 911. He's right there.
Okay, but we don't know what happened the week that is, he may have did. I think personally he did it. But if I was in a trial, if I was sitting there in a jury and do you have any opinions about it? I'd say I think he's guilty.
Well, then you wouldn't be on the jury.
Huh?
You wouldn't be on the jury.
I know I wouldn't. How many people do you I heard a real good...
Are you under the impression that everybody knows all about this?
I think how many people watched or you even carried it over your station live, that press conferences, what happened Friday. Everybody knows about what's happened. Everybody.
Well, I'm afraid you're right. I'm going to have to back you up on this, Gary. I've led myself right into a trap. I think I've already tossed it now, but I believe that the USA Today has a poll out that says something astonishing, like 90% of the American people know about this case, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's impossible that 90%.
And I think it's also pathetic, but I don't blame the press. I really do not blame the press. I don't blame your station any more than I do CNN or anything else I might watch. But, You know,
well, Gary,
Channel 11, we get it on the Tacoma station. They're breaking in and saying this has happened and this has been found and it hasn't been found. And, you know, just too many people know about it, and too many people have already made an opinion.
All right, Gary. Then the task of the prosecution and the defense and the whole system in Los Angeles is going to be to find 12 people that, even if they do know about it, will honestly say that they have not formed an opinion and will form an opinion only based on the evidence. They'll have to say that. Then, of course, they'll have to deliver on the goods, and they'll have to be believed.
I think it's ground for an appeal or a mistrial.
Well, of course it's ground for an appeal. Everything is appealed. Everything is appealed in this country, Gary. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Right.
You appeal. Gary, I have enjoyed speaking to you immensely. I don't believe you've spoken to me before. You call me again.
No, I've talked to you once before. I was just kind of waiting for a sub sandwich. That was all. But I just wanted to give you some ideas.
Well, Gary,
and I really think that Todd came up with some really good ideas.
Yeah. Well, so much for Todd. Now, so you're not really selling the idea of a sub shop sandwich. You kind of mentioned it in passing, making it very easy for me to dismiss
saying that
you.
Because I was helping Michael today clean his room, and we're listening to your talk show.
Yes, who's Michael?
He's my son. He's 11. He's out of school today.
Oh, good. Does he like my show too?
Well, yeah, that's where we were when I came into the dining room.
Listen to my unwarranted assumption. I said Sue, too, assuming that both you and Michael like my show.
We both like it, yeah.
You stay right there. Sub Shops Andrea for good old Gary and his son. On King 1090, it's 2:51.
Turn of the century splendor set amongst the pristine rolling hills of Karlovy Vary, Carlsbad, the recently rediscovered town an hour and a half from Prague in the new Czech Republic. The music of Dvorak, Smetana, and Suk, performed by Josef Suk. Total pampering by world-renowned spas and their staff to rejuvenate body, mind, and spirit with daily massage and water treatments. RIA Travels, along with Classic King FM and KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, have created a fabulous 2-week stay in Karlovy Vary to celebrate the music of Dvorak and the 100th anniversary of the New World Symphony. I'm George Shangro from Classic King FM. I'll be there as your host, presenting discussions before each of the 5 concerts we'll be attending during our stay. There are many other special treats during this once-in-a-lifetime experience of affordable elegance. All-inclusive prices range from $34.95 to $38.95 and include airfare. Call 828-6413.
My 3-year-old, Claire, loves her new plastic scissors. So this week, when I brought in the mail, she was happy to see that Safeway's new coupon book arrived. For me, it's full of great coupons and great values. For Claire, it's full of pictures and coupons that are just waiting to be scissored. Peanut butter, cereals, cat litter, you name it, she'll clip it. I like the Safeway coupon books. They keep Claire busy. They save me money. And the proud look on Claire's face when she gives the cashier her coupons is worth almost as much as the money I save.
Take advantage of your new Safeway coupon book that just came in the mail. Save on Kraft macaroni and cheese dinners, Top ramen noodles, Z paper towels, Copper Tone sun care products, and more. Value's good until August 2nd. Remember, nobody does it better than Safeway.
Hi, this is Tom Leykis. Join me for the next Tom Leykis show as we meet Andy Archambault. He's the man who was recently arrested in Michigan for stalking a woman by computer. The state of Michigan claims that the email messages he was sending were violating the woman's freedom and privacy. Archambault says he has a side of the story that he wants to share with you. Do you think it's possible to stalk someone by computer? We'll talk about it. The Tom Leykis Show, late afternoon, starting at 3 on King Newstalk 1090.
254 King 1090. And down the stretch they come. And I will guarantee you that tomorrow we're not going to have one word said about O.J. Simpson on the Rick Miller Show. Unless, of course, something very important happens. Leanne in Ballard, you're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, Leanne.
I'm a recovering nagger.
Oh, are you?
I am.
Oh, tell us.
Well, first of all, let me give you the scenario.
Okay.
I was to the point where I would follow my husband down the hall when he was trying to leave a conversation, saying things over and over.
Oh, Lord.
Because Well, actually, I discovered why, but I wanted to say first that it's really, for me, it was a result of frustration over a lack of communication. And I would rephrase my point, feeling I hadn't been heard, constantly.
Great point. I hope that everyone heard that.
And for
That's
me...
that's almost a good justification for nagging.
Well, it was for me, but probably not for him. It sent him further away from me rather than made our communication better.
Yeah.
And it came out of a personality test that showed that my strength to say what I felt also became my weakness in that I tried to say it differently often.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the solution has been twofold. One, it's been to learn to say it the first time really well. And that takes some thinking through
Good
on
for
my
you,
part.
though. Gee whiz.
And then secondly, for him to respond to me that I've been heard, not that he agrees with me, but that we have communicated. That's where our problem was personally, is that he would just quit talking.
Uh-huh.
And then I would assume I needed to say it differently in order for him to
hear it.
Yeah.
Wow. And all this has taken effect now?
Well, it's, it's
Is it in
a constant struggle, I think, because, like I said, my strength is probably to talk in our family. I'm the talker, and he's not. He's one of those great, strong, silent types, and
Sure.
I admire that. But it also becomes a nemesis to us because it becomes my greatest frustration as well.
How long have you been at work on this?
Probably about 10 years.
Really? I mean, this has been an ongoing process for 10 years.
And that's short. I mean, we've been married 25, so, thankfully I came to some realization at about 15 years that we were closing off our relationship, and I was a good 50% part of it.
And your husband is playing along here?
Oh, somewhat. For me, I'd say the solution's probably been greater for me, although the evidence of it would be like 10 years ago, we would have gone a week without talking after a discussion that got heated.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I'd say we go a day, maybe two.
How do you live with someone and not speak to him for a day or two? Is that real uncomfortable?
Oh, for me, tremendously. For him, not
Do you have
so
a big
much.
house?
Well,
I mean, do you sleep when you're not speaking, do you sleep in the same bed?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, I would think that'd be very tough.
It is. It is. And I have a
wouldn't
really
sleep
strong faith, and I believe you shouldn't go to sleep that way.
Yeah.
So then that was another thing that really drove me to talk more and more and try to drag things out of him, nag him. And that wasn't solving it. It was just, adding more to the problem.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. This should be interesting. We have a guy, Cody in Port Orchard. You're on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, Cody. Cody, you're 5 years old?
Yeah.
Now, what would you like to say, Cody?
This is Rick Miller on the radio.
Why, Cody, that's going to be good enough to get you a couple of sub-shop sandwiches, my fine young friend.
Thank you.
Yes, and you tell your sweet mother. You give your sweet mother a big hug and a kiss for putting you up to this, okay, Cody?
Okay.
Now, my young friend, you stay right there.
Okay.
Stay right there, and Andrea will fix Cody up very quickly, yeah. Peter, we're on really short time on King 1090.
Hi, Rick.
Yes, sir.
I have one comment about O.J. Simpson. It wasn't what I was going to talk about, but he spent most of his life fending off some of the biggest and strongest guys in the entire world for a living, and he became very good at it. That may be the reason he didn't have any cuts and bruises on his body.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Peter, and thank you very much for making it so crisp and concise. We are literally at the end of the show. Thank you. Once again, I've enjoyed it immensely. I assume when I do, you do. So thanks for being there. I'm glad you're all out there listening and participating. Tom Likas is up next. Stay tuned for Tom. It's a great show coming live out of Los Angeles.
with lots of pizzazz. Of course, we say thank you to Sean Splain on the board. Great job, Sean. Andrea DeCou, thank you for your fine work as the producer of the show. Janet Ryan watches traffic in wonderful fashion. John Williams going for his green belt in Taekwondo tonight. For his green belt, although my personal feeling is he should be going for his puce belt. Anyway, good luck to John. And Tony Miner in the news department helping out. Joe Fiala, the engineer, he keeps the train on the tracks. Hug the kids, everybody. They deserve it, and so do you. And until tomorrow at noon, don't you dare be late. I'm Rick Miller on the radio.
Seattle's only news talk station with variety. King News Talk 1090. KING, Seattle.
Here's the latest from ABC News. I'm Bob Hart. Another day has gone by with no indictment handed up by the grand jury looking into charges that O.J. Simpson killed his ex-wife and her friend. ABC's John North in Los Angeles says a woman had told the grand jury that she saw O.J. near the scene of the crime minutes after it happened may not be called to testify if the case goes to trial.
If this woman were to be believed, it would shoot a huge hole in his alibi. There's supposedly other testimony to that effect, but after she appeared on hard copy and she had been paid to appear, there were questions about her credibility, and apparently she will not be called if there's a trial.
And what of the media coverage of the O.J. Simpson case so far? Have news people and TV tabloid shows gone overboard trying to outscoop each other? Legal analyst Royal Oakes says no.
The media should definitely regulate itself in the sense that to the extent we're getting rumors being printed and later it's proven they're false, the media should try to clean up their act. But ultimately, to the extent there are abuses, we have to let the market system work and let people vote with their feet, so to speak. If they don't like a particular media outlet, they just won't patronize it.
As for O.J. Simpson, he got a visit in jail today from Rosie Greer, the pro football star turned minister. Now this.
America, get rockin' and cooking with Kraft, Oscar Mayer, and Lewis Rich. Wolfman Jack here telling you to get rockin' with up to $10 in savings at Musicland and Sam Goody. Save up to $10 on CDs and cassettes when you get cooking with your family's favorite foods. Buy any 3 Kraft cheese products 8 ounces or larger, Oscar Mayer bologna or Lewis Rich cold cuts, and you can save up to $10 on the music you want to hear. Get details in the mail-in form at the Rockin' and Cookin' display in participating grocery stores now.
Great summer times from Visa. Just a 2-step from the top of the Tennessee Smokies, there's a place where bluegrass is king and the queen of country reigns. It's Dollywood, Dolly Parton's entertainment park, where the banjos duel, but the locals are friendly. So if you want to whirl in an old-time carousel or twirl to the good old songs of the South, grab your partner and your Visa card. Because at Dollywood, they're always up for a hoedown, but they'll turn you down with American Express. Visa, this summer, it's everywhere you want to be.
King News Talk 1090, late afternoon news update.
302 King News Talk 1090. Good afternoon. I'm Tony Miner in the King 1090 News Center. A memorial service at Fairchild Air Force Base today for the 4 people gunned down by a former airman armed with an assault rifle. Jim Mitchell is a friend of the base psychiatrist killed in the rampage.
He had the ability to restore hope and inspire passion in people to move forward into wellness. And if we can take one thing from this and pass it on to others around us, it's that ability to restore hope.
Also today it was disclosed that one of the wounded women has lost her fetus. The O.J. Simpson case has focused a lot of attention on domestic violence, and although Seattle is considered a national leader in coping with the problem, Seattle police say more than 11% of their incident reports last year were for domestic violence, nearly 8,000 cases. The Bremerton Sun reports the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard is among the least desirable of 10 potential sites for storing spent nuclear reactor fuel. But the fuel could still be stored there. An environmental impact report is the latest step in a process that will result in the selection of a site next year. 303 King News Talk 1090. Now a check on the forecast from John Miller.
Looking for mostly cloudy skies this afternoon and a few scattered showers with highs today in the upper 60s. Overnight tonight, continued mostly cloudy, lingering showers and overnight lows in the lower 50s.
A dog, my friends. You ought to have a dog. A friendly, faithful D-O-G-O-G, you gotta have a dog. Oh, sure, I suppose there are those who go for bats or rats or frogs. But me, I go to the dogs. He's faithful and true, devoted to you, so what do? You go to Petco. Premium food for every meal. It'll show him how you really feel.
Give him all the best. Here's
Here's a healthy tip for your dog. Nature's Recipe. It's made from only natural ingredients and is easy for your pet to digest. And now through Sunday, save $2 off of any 20-pound or larger bag of Nature's Recipe dog food. Plus, Petco will give you a 2-pound box of Nature's Recipe dog biscuits free. That's like saving $8. Treat your dog to a healthy diet and yourself to the healthy savings. Petco's the best you can get for your pet. And there's one in almost every neighborhood, giving you better buys on more and better pet supplies.
Your pet is more than welcome at Petco.
And to check on the all-day traffic watch, here's Janet Ryan.
Well, first of all, one big problem we have is on the highway. Apparently, there's a water main broken near Tyrion Valley, and Water Department's a little worried about that creating a mess, so just be warned. Also, you're slowing southbound 405 typically from around 30th into the S-curves. Northbound S-curves look a little jammed up as well. Also slowing northbound 405 north of 520 to the 908 Redmond-Kirkland exit. If you are heading into Mountain Lake Terrace, northbound 5 slows between the King-Snow County line and 220th. So far, 90 and 520 are doing great. It was slow earlier, eastbound 520 from Mountain Lake to the water, but it looks like that's all thinned out, so don't worry about it. This check on traffic is service of Boom City Fireworks. Celebrate the 4th in style this year with fireworks from Boom City near Marysville. Over 100 stands to choose from. Take I-5, exit 199, and follow the signs to Boom City. It's 3:06. I'm Janet Ryan, and the all-day traffic watch continues on King News Talk 1090.